Notice overhead power lines.
1,500 total yards of rushing. They're two of the most exciting freshmen in all of college football.
These two teams have played their best football toward the end of the year. We think we'll see a great one tonight here in Shreveport, Louisiana, the 20th annual Poland Weed-Eater Bowl. Chris?
Jerry, thanks very much. LSU's defense holding the last 4 opponents to 10 points or less. Can Michigan State run? If they can, they have a great chance to win. If they don't have a great chance to win. 2 first-year coaches get their teams in the bowls, and neither of these teams were in bowls a year ago, so you have to give the nod to Jerry DiNardo at LSU, who promised to bring back the magic. Nick Saban's team last went bowling in '93. Neuheisel and Willingham. Trevor Willingham turning his team completely around, and that's the job that you really like.
It's one of those jobs where, you go in there and you got a system where you've got to get used to going in, coaching in a bowl week and everything. I remember going back talking to my high school coach. They'd going after another state championship, and we talked about the little things that take place in championship games. And I said then, hey, as a player, I hope that the coaching staff does the same thing in week 30 as they did in week 1. It doesn't matter when you're playing the ball game. You do the little things that have always got you there, therefore you'll be successful. You cannot change one iota to your game plan.
Craig, I want to single out one of those guys, Tyrone Willingham from Stanford. Last year, Stanford was 3-7-1. This year, they're 7-3-1. The reason is there's extra pressure on this guy. He's the only minority head football coach in Division 1A to take his team to a bowl. He's doing a great job. He's on his way to the NFL someday. He's a great football coach.
All right, when we continue on the weekend kickoff show, we'll talk about the Rose Bowl, Keyshawn Johnson and company against the Wildcats. We'll also talk about the Citrus Bowl as we continue to count down to the kickoff in Shreveport. Tony Banks, the senior quarterback for Michigan State, playing his final college game. Many believe he has a future in the NFL. Bowling, they've gone sumo wrestling in those big suits that you put on and roll around.
Not Danny Werfel. I guarantee he won't do it.
Frazier is tough enough to take it.
Yes.
Quarterback's definitely not in the focus in the Rose Bowl as U.S. offense. 6 o'clock Pacific, it's Kansas State and Colorado State. The Rams finishing up the season very strong, but Kansas State clearly the favorite in that ball game. It comes up at 9 o'clock Eastern time. In the meantime, I want to take a look at a growing trend in the bowl games so far this year. Remember, in the history of all bowl games, only 11 times have both teams combined for 77 or more. Well, look at that. The first 3 bowl games of this season hit that mark and went beyond it. The Aloha Bowl, a mismatch. The Copper Bowl, a mismatch. A tight, lower scoring game. We expected that last night in the Alamo Bowl, and the Heritage Bowl right back to high scoring.
Chris, what surprised me most of all is that college football defenses are now playing better in the red zone than ever before, forcing field goals. Now, A&M had 5. Iowa's got 4. I tell you what, you better have a good field goal kicker in close games in the bowl games.
Yeah, which may lead us to the Fiesta Bowl. We're going to break down the special teams of that game pretty soon. How about Texas Tech, Texas A&M, and Kansas? You talk about the Big 12. We've mentioned it. We think it's going to be the best conference in America. Certainly those teams that are going to be playing there have shown that in the bowl season this year. A&M, that was a huge win for those guys last night. I knew they had the talent to do it, but I didn't think they could beat Michigan.
Would it be possible for future Big 12 teams to go 7-0 in bowls? The remaining 4 that have not played yet are all favored in their games. Now to LSU and Michigan State. Not very often scalpers get big prices to watch 2 6-4-1 teams, but they're excited in Shreveport about LSU and Michigan State. The 4 key players, as Jerry Punch told you about it, will not start.
Chris, LSU uses a different kind of a defense. They use a 3-5-3 and do a lot of blitzing. I think if Michigan State's going to beat LSU, they better have good pass protection. But it's so unique, it could cause them problems early. Watch for it.
Yeah, with that 3-man defensive line, Green gets back in there for Michigan State. He can run. And for LSU, they got to go out. Eddie Kennison, a big playmaker for them. He's got to get the ball in his hands. He's got to have a game.
Can the freshman backfield of LSU perform well in a bowl game? That's a big question. Up in that Sun Bowl game and that surprising score, Iowa continuing to club Washington 31-6 down in El Paso. But now it's time to take you to Independence Stadium down in Shreveport, Louisiana. It's LSU and Michigan State. Enjoy the game. Mike Tirico's here at halftime. But now, Jerry Punch and Bill Lewis. Guys?
It's bowl fever time for Michigan State fans here in Shreveport, Louisiana. The Spartans have put together their first winning season since 1990 and now are looking to add the finishing touches to a successful year behind first-year head coach Nick Saban. For LSU, the Tigers are in their own backyard playing the biggest game of the season. First-year head coach Jerry DiNardo's team is sparked by a pair of freshman running backs nicknamed Thunder and Lightning. It's Michigan State and LSU, and it's next. We welcome you to a sold-out Independence Stadium in Shreveport, Louisiana for the 20th annual Poland Weed Eater Independence Bowl, featuring the Michigan State Spartans out of the Big Ten and LSU out of the SEC. Hello, everyone. I'm Jerry Punch, and this matchup is a selection committee's dream. Two programs with great football traditions, identical records at 6-4-1, and enthusiastic first-year head coaches. In fact, we talked to both coaches, and each said what we need to do to win tonight is exactly the same.
I think one of the most difficult things in bowl games is to get your offensive timing back. And the sign of who gets their offensive timing back better, us and Michigan State, will be our success or lack of on 1st and 10. So as people watch the game, I think whoever's having the most success on 1st and 10 is going to have the early edge in the game.
We're joined now by expert analyst Bill Lewis. And Coach, the big story coming out of Shreveport today was the fact that Michigan State head coach Nick Saban actually disciplined 4 key starters for apparently curfew violations.
4 very productive starters. You've got fullback Scott Green, who produced 16 rushing touchdowns during the season. Bob Denton, their starting left tackle, the best player on their offensive line of scrimmage. And then on defense, their #1 and #2 tacklers on their team, middle linebacker Reggie Garnett and strong safety Marvin Wright. The Spartans will miss those 4 players early in this football game. It's time for their senior quarterback, Tony Banks, to step forward and shoulder a little bit more of the offensive load until he can be joined by Green in that backfield.
Well, across the field, LSU will counter with 2 exciting freshman tailbacks. They've nicknamed them Thunder and Lightning.
They're 2 of perhaps the most productive freshman backs in all of college football, and they complement each other so well. Kevin Falk will attack the perimeter of the defense with his speed. Kendall Cleveland is the north-south runner, and both of them will attack a defense.
It's 2 of the premier college football conferences in America, the Big Ten and the SEC. 2 programs back on the rise. These folks are going nuts. This house is rocking. Back with the kickoff of the 20th annual Poland Weed Eater Independence Bowl in a moment. Port Louisiana couldn't ask for a better week. It's getting a little cool here now. 47 degrees, wind not a factor at 5 to 10 miles per hour, fair skies, and it is a grass surface. This field in excellent condition. LSU has won the toss and will defer. Michigan State will receive. There's a deep man, a guy to watch, Derek Mason, #1 in the Big Ten in kickoff return yardage. And he can turn a game around in a hurry. Wade Ritchie kicks it off, and we're underway in Shreveport, Louisiana. There's the man Michigan State will lean on heavily today, senior Tony Banks, second team All Big Ten quarterback. And remember, the suspensions will mean that Travis Reese will start at fullback instead of the 2-time MVP Scott Green, so Reese will have a big load to carry early on. Derek Mason, leading receiver on the team, 4th in the Big Ten this year. And up front, Dave Mudge will start in place of the senior, Bob Denton. Hand off to Renaud, maybe a yard. Take a look at LSU defensively. And gave Northern the 2 times. But since it's all SEC pick, he is their leader in leading in sacks at defensive end. Behind him, the leading tackler on the team, Alan Stansbury, an outside linebacker out of Baton Rouge. And in the secondary, Talvey Crawford, the first defensive back in the history of the school to record over 100 tackles on the season. Banks back to pass, has a receiver open downfield, wide open, and it is Muhammad, 30, 25, 20, and Muhammad will score. If he doesn't dance around a little bit, Coach, he almost gave that one away.
He certainly did. What you've got to do is you've got to make that play and not let up until you get into the end zone. Michigan State catching LSU early in man-to-man coverage, and Muhammad just beat the coverage of the corner and makes the big play for Michigan State. Isolated at the top of the screen, we see Muhammad just run right by #8, Torrey James, and the great job by Tony Banks of getting him the ball, and then he does the rest. And as you mentioned, you've got to make sure you don't celebrate until you get in that end zone.
6-0 on the second play of the game. Make it 7-0 on Chris Gardner's extra point. And just that quickly, it is 7-zip Michigan State, and this partisan crowd of LSU followers has suddenly gotten very quiet here in Shreveport. We'll be back. Stay with us.
On just the second play of the game, senior quarterback, 6'5", Tony Banks, found number 1, Muhsin Muhammad, behind cornerback Torrey James, 78 yards, and the Spartans strike like lightning.
Well, we've played less than a minute here in Shreveport, and it's 7-zip and back deep. This guy, very, very dangerous. There's his average, 21.8 yards on the year. Eddie Kennison, a 4-time track All-American, junior out of Lake Charles, Louisiana. Fairly short kick taken by the up-backer on the 20-yard line. Clarence Linton, and Linton is smothered right at the 20. Take a look at the LSU offense, and there's the guy they're going to talk about all evening, Kevin Falk, a true freshman out of Corinthia, Louisiana. He was freshman offensive player of the year in the SEC. Eddie Kennison, Lake Charles, Louisiana, wide receiver, most outstanding offensive player voted by the coaches this year. And up front, Mark King, the only senior on the offensive line, a 2-year starter. He is the leader up front. Look at Kevin Falk. He got motion in the backfield. Herb Tyler, another freshman quarterback, rolling out, looking for a receiver upfield. It has Eddie Kennison, the guy we talked about. Take a look at the Spartans defensively.
Pass complete to Eddie Kennison.
Remember, they had some people they had to replace, like Kenny Allen, left tackle up front. He leads the team with 6 sacks, but behind them they had some concerns because Tyrone Garland is going to start at middle linebacker in place of their leading tackler, Reggie Garnett. And in the secondary, Dan Hackenbrack starts in place of Marvin Wright, who was the second leading tackler.
LSU at their own 38-yard line.
There's Jerry DiNardo, head coach at LSU, his first year at LSU after 4 years at Vanderbilt. And Kevin Falk scampers out of bounds up near the 40-yard line.
Carried by Kevin Falk.
Tyrone Garland there to run him out of bounds. A gain of about 2.5, 3. A little bit of a surprise, Coach, if Michigan State would come out and challenge them that quickly, knowing LSU's outside speed.
When we talked to Nick Saban yesterday, one of the things that he felt was important that the receivers early in the ball game challenged the corners of LSU and showed that they could have some success. And, of course, he got the whole ball of wax on one play.
Motion by Shedrick Wilson, this time a give again to Falk, who's got an opening, 45-50 down the sidelines. Falk can move, and he will finally be caught from behind inside the Spartan 20-yard line by weak outside linebacker Ike Reese.
As we look at the replay, this is the counter gap play. We see the guard, number 62, pulling in front, and then their H-back, number 11, Savoy, leading Kevin Falk through the line of scrimmage. That play, along with their wide zone dive player, the 2 plays that Michigan State is going to have to stop on the ground.
40-yard gain on that run by Falk. Gives him a first out inside the 20-yard line, make it to Michigan State 19. The give to Kendall Cleveland. One freshman to the next, and they don't lose a thing in that backfield.
Both of those freshmen complement each other and complement this offense so well. Falk has got the outstanding speed, and he's the guy that can really burn you on the corner. But Cleveland has got good speed, and he also has the power where he can take that zone dive play. And if he sees the cutback, Jerry, he'll go for that thing back inside.
Cleveland led the team with 11 touchdowns this year, 10 rushing and 1 receiving. They put him in a lot of times on short yardage situations. He's a little bit bigger back, in fact, about 20 pounds larger than Kevin Falk. Cleveland the setback, but here is Tyler looking upfield and has a receiver at the 12-yard line. Once again, it's Eddie Kennison.
I like what offensive coordinator Morris Watts is doing with his freshman quarterback, Herb Tyler. He came out on the first pass, put him in the sprint out, threw the ball to Kennison on the sideline route. Now he comes right back and gives him a short option route that he knows is a high percentage pass. He's got him feeling good. He's got his confidence. He's 2 for 2 in the air.
And, Coach, they brought in the man they call Earthquake, 300-pound Anthony McFarland, number 94, and he is in the up back position, fullback, and he leads the way for Falk, who will have the first down, but there's a flag on the play.
This is 300 pounds freshman, and he is going to take the pile all the way into the end zone. Watch him continue. Now, Falk got tackled down on about the 6-yard line, but McFarland had the linebacker all the way into the end zone.
And the officials talk it over. Anthony McFarland was freshman co-defensive player of the year in the SEC.
Offside on the defense. Decline. First down.
And today's officials out of the Big 8 Conference, you just saw referee Terry Turlington there signifying the offsides on Michigan State, which was declined. And the first down will stand. First and goal from the 7-yard line. LSU trying to drive and tie it up. Once again, the pitch back to Cleveland, and he will score.
What a comfortable feeling it has to be a tailback sitting back there behind a 302-pound fullback. We see Cleveland, number 32, behind 94, McFarland. He clears the way along with number 11, Mickey Savoie, for the LSU touchdown.
Here is Andre LaFleur for the extra point. He will make it 35 in a row in 1995, and just that quickly, it is 7-7 on this run by Kendall Cleveland. Less than 3 minutes gone, and we've scored twice. Back in a moment. The 20th annual Pole and Weed Eater Independence Bowl is presented by the new Twist and Edge Trimmer Edgers. 2 tools in one by Weed Eater. And in part by Lincoln. What a luxury car should be. Back in Shreveport, Louisiana, there's the redshirt freshman Kendall Cleveland, who carried it across for the Tigers to tie it up here with less than 3 minutes gone in the first quarter. Both these football teams have scored over 70 points this year in the first quarter. And, Coach, we may have to get some bulbs ready for that scoreboard because they're going to light it up tonight. Wade Ritchie kicking it off, and deep in the end zone, 8 yards deep, is Derek Mason, and he will kneel down. And Michigan State will start from their own 20-yard line.
Jerry, what a tremendous weapon that is, because Derek Mason is only 47 yards from being the all-time Big Ten kickoff return leader. He came into this game averaging 26.3 yards per game, so it's great to have that kicker that can start you out at the 20-yard line.
That 78-yard completion on their first possession, the longest pass play for Michigan State University this year. First and 10 for the Spartans, 20-yard line. The give to the tailback, that is Mark Renaud, and he will fight forward for maybe a couple of yards, and that's about all. Gabe Northern there from his right defensive end spot to make the stop. Coach, any surprises at all about how this game started out? I know both teams a little bit concerned about trying to regain their timing after a month off.
It appears that the timing is there. When we talked with Nick Saban, he wanted to throw the ball early. He came out and he did that in his first possession. LSU established the 2 freshman tailbacks very quickly. Pretty much what those teams have done during the season to be successful.
Gain of 3 on the carry by Renaud. Now Banks back in the shotgun. The inside handoff to Renaud again. And he will get maybe a couple. As Alan Stansbury there, the leading tackler for LSU, to make the stop. That'll bring up a 3rd and about 5 for Michigan State.
Michigan State is going to have to throw the ball to be successful. Nick Saban yesterday said they're a little bit different than most teams. They try to set up the running game by throwing the football.
Shotgun formation by Banks, wide receivers, Muhammad and Mason. And flags all over the field. There's Muhammad with the reception, 35, 40, and he will dance out to the 43-yard line before he is finally forced out of bounds. Looks like they're going to flag LSU for offsides.
There is a flag on the field.
Sure that Michigan State would deny the penalty, would decline the penalty, and take the play, putting the ball up over the 45-yard line. That's indeed the signal by our referee, Terry Turlington.
Offside on the defense. Decline. First down.
As we look at the play again, it appeared that some of the LSU players stopped playing when it was obvious that they had jumped offside. Tony Banks, knowing that he had the free play, did a nice job of getting the ball to Muhammad for the big reception.
First and 10, their own 43-yard line. Banks will give it again to the tailback, Renaud. He's up to the 45 and smothered there again by Alan Stansberry. A lot of concern by Michigan State, Coach, that you said they needed to throw the football on first down because they really didn't feel like they could match up with the speed LSU had, particularly in their front four.
Speed of their front four, and really LSU will play a lot of 8-man front defensive looks to take away the run, and they were so successful. During the season, they gave up just 135 yards a game rushing, and then their total defense was second best in the conference, just 308 total yards of defense.
Mason, the receiver, bottom of your screen. Najee Carter, top of your screen. Second and 8 for Michigan State. And once again, penalties come from the secondary. Whistles are blown. It will stop play. Apparently a delay of game on the Spartans.
Dead ball. Delay of the game on the offense.
Need to call. It will cost them 5 yards. When this crowd gets rocking, the noise gets pretty difficult to hear, but you got to believe Michigan State's pretty accustomed to that kind of racket, having gone over the years to Michigan Stadium, 104,000 there, and of course playing in front of their own crowd. There at Spartan Stadium, over 75,000. Second and 13 on the penalty. Tony Banks back to pass, and he will be horse-collared back there, and they will call that a fumble. His arm had not gone forward, and Gabe Northern, who led the team with 9 sacks this year, picks up sack number 10, or actually he will cause the fumble and recover it for LSU.
Gabe Northern certainly shows here why he was consensus All-SEC by both the media and the coaches in the conference, where he simply came back and beat David Mudge. Perhaps one of the effects of the suspension, Mudge is playing that left tackle in place of the disciplined Bob Denton, who would be their normal left tackle.
Boy, and that's dangerous too. The backside tackle on a quarterback can get your quarterback hammered, and it costs them right there. On the turnover, LSU will take possession at the Michigan State 26 to give inside to Falk, and he gets maybe a yard and a half down to the 25-yard line. And a fumble, and Michigan State will get the ball right back.
Fumble by number 3, Kevin Falk, recovered by Michigan State.
One of the things that's so important when a team gives up a turnover, as Michigan State did, is that their defense comes back on the field and responds, and we see the Spartans come right back. They knock the ball loose right at the line of scrimmage. Number 21, Demetrius Martin, on the play for the Spartans.
Got one turnover each. Pretty even matchup, I think. 7-7 football game. Each team having scored early on. And here is Banks rolling to his right. The pass has a receiver upfield. And it's the tight end, Josh Kerr. And he will make the reception up over the 40-yard line. Alvin Crawford there from the strong safety spot to make the tackle.
I like to call offensive coordinator Gary Tranquil. The previous offensive snap, they tried to throw out of the pocket. Northern came in. He immediately came back with play action to move the pocket and get Tony Banks out on the corner where he could have a better look at the LSU defense.
Michigan State moving once again. Line of scrimmage, their own 41-yard line. They scored, if you just joined us, in the second play offensively, a 78-yard pass play. Banks to Muhammad. And Pat Rogers there to stone that play. Tailback Tyrone Crenshaw going nowhere.
LSU all season long, a very physical defense, and we get a great look at Pat Rogers, number 82, as he wraps up Tyrone Crenshaw, the Michigan State tailback.
Rogers, one of 4 players from here in Shreveport, Louisiana, playing for LSU, wants to be able to impress the hometown folks. Certainly did there with that lick. That'll bring up a second and essentially 9.5, almost 10 yards. Banks back to pass, has Muhammad, and will throw it behind him up over the 50-yard line. Muhammad had a step, but the pass thrown behind him. Torrey James there on the coverage from his left cornerback spot.
Tony Banks would like to have that ball back, because if he keeps the ball to the inside, the receiver can continue to work away from the corner, and he would have had a big reception. He just threw the ball a little bit off balance, a little bit behind the receiver.
Carter going in for Muhammad, substituting at wide receiver. Carter caught a 93-yarder against Indiana last year from Tony Banks. 3rd and long, shotgun by the senior quarterback from Michigan State. Getting some pressure, and he will try to scramble and now throw it downfield, and not a wise toss at all by Banks. That ball almost picked off by Greg Hill, who is the nickelback.
Tony Banks certainly had the right idea as he was forced out of the pocket. He saw that his receivers were covered. He does a nice job of knowing that he doesn't want to take the sack, but he made a bad decision as to where he throws the ball. All you have to do in that particular situation is get the ball thrown out of bounds and line up and play 4th down.
Chris Solani set the kick to the #1 punt returner in the SEC, Eddie Kennison. Low end-over-end kick hits about the 27-yard line and will roll down toward the 20. Kennison walks away, and that's where Michigan State will down it, and LSU will take over on their own 20. 7 minutes, 39 seconds remaining here in the first quarter. It is even up, 7-7 between Michigan State and LSU. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us. Louisiana, first quarter, 7 minutes, 39 seconds remaining, and it is all even here between LSU and Michigan State. Both teams scoring. If you just joined us on their opening possessions, Michigan State a 78-yard connection in the air. Banks to Muhammad. LSU driving the length of the field for their touchdown. Completion to David LaFleur, the tight end. Tyler to LaFleur.
We talked quite a bit about the freshman tailbacks, Kevin Falk and Kendall Cleveland, and we also need to mention that this is an all-freshman backfield with their quarterback number 14, Herb Tyler, started late in the season and had wins against North Texas State, Ole Miss, and Arkansas in his 3 starts as a true freshman.
Yeah, once again, the Cleveland has some running room up over the 30-yard line. Ike Reese there to make the stop, a sophomore from Cincinnati, Ohio. The fact that Herb Tyler only played 4 games this year for LSU, yet was named to the freshman all-SEC team, tells you what kind of athlete he is.
And he certainly did a marvelous job. And the reason he was pressed into action, Jamie Howard, their outstanding senior quarterback, had a shoulder injury early in the season against Florida, missed a couple games, then he came back, and in their game against Alabama, re-injured the shoulder and is on the sideline tonight, not able to play. This brought Tyler onto the scene, and he responded with 3 late-season victories for LSU.
Offense scored a combined 115 points with Tyler at the quarterback, and he's going to go deep. Has a receiver and overthrows the outstretched hands of Shedrick Wilson, second team all-SEC flanker, and Wilson had a step on the safety, Sori Kanu.
This is one of those plays where you're making a statement as an offensive coordinator to let the Michigan State secondary know 2 things. 1, your receivers can go deep. Shedrick Wilson as well as Eddie Kennison can go deep, and they showed that Herb Tyler has the arm strength to get the ball to him on those type of routes.
That'll bring up a 2nd and 10 just over the 30-yard line. Motion by Falk. And here is Tyler. Will give it off to Cleveland inside 35, 36, 37-yard line by Kendall Cleveland. That'll bring up a 3rd and about 3. Dan Hackenbrack there to make the stop. Remember, Hackenbrack starting at middle linebacker spot for their leading tackler, Reggie Garnett.
that is going to be an interesting situation, is how long Garnett will stay out of the ball game, because when you have a player who played as many minutes and as many plays as Garnett has played, I think Coach Saban will want to try to have that situation remedied perhaps before the first quarter ends.
Both their leading and second leading tacklers for Michigan State not allowed to start because of a curfew violation. Here's a pass thrown behind Wilson, but in all fairness to Tyler, he was getting some heat in a hurry from the outside.
Getting some pressure, and he never really had a chance to set his feet. That caused the ball to be thrown behind, but he had an open receiver. They got the matchup they wanted, man-to-man, and number 6, Wilson, had worked himself open on a shallow crossing route.
And that'll bring up a punting situation. Chad Kessler, all-conference punter, best in the SEC, 4th in the nation with a 44.1-yard average. Derek Mason back to receive, and a low line drive spiral sends Mason backpedaling inside the 15-yard line, dodges one tackler, and moves to the outside. Now has running room. Mason 30-35, and that's where he'll finally be brought down by Chad Kessler, the punter, there to make the stop. And if Kessler doesn't make the tackle, it is Katie bar the door. Mason's off to the races.
Derek Mason has got all the natural instincts of a great returner. Of course, he's not only their punt returner, but their kickoff returner. He knows how to make people miss. He knows how to find daylight in the coverage team, and he does a tremendous job here of establishing good field position for the Michigan State offense.
Great punt by Kessler, 49 yards, and also if he didn't make the tackle, then it's 14-7 all of a sudden, but that doesn't happen. Kessler makes the tackle, and Michigan State will take over on the 36-yard line. Banks rolling to pass, has a receiver, Muhammad, once again, and he is forced out of bounds by Torrey James.
Banks pass complete to Muhammad.
You can't cover anybody. Now coming up 8:30 p.m. Eastern time on New Year's Eve, it's a NASCAR marathon on ESPN2. 30 hours of fast-paced, exciting NASCAR racing from the 1995 season. From the speed and fast action of the super speedways to the bump and grind of the short tracks. Relive the best NASCAR excitement of the season. That is New Year's Eve, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the Deuce. 2nd and 6. Michigan State. Give to the tailback Renaud, and he is smothered at the line of scrimmage. Alan Stansbury there, maybe a half a yard at best.
Renaud, the ball carrier.
LSU gives you a lot of looks on defense, Jerry. They're constantly going from an odd front to an even front, and then they use their strong safety, much like an outside linebacker, to create a lot of 8-man fronts. They're awfully tough to run against. What you have to be able to do is spread that 8-man front, look out, throw the ball short in front of the corners.
3rd and 5, Banks in the shotgun, upfield, has a receiver, Nigel Carter, and it's good enough for the first down.
Banks came right back to it. He saw the 8-man front, the 3-deep secondary, and he came right back to Nigel Carter on the quick slant in front of the corner. Nice job, nice catch. Carter going up, keeping his body between himself and the coverage corner, number 8, Torrey James. One of the outstanding cover corners in the SEC, and a young man that's going to be playing in the Senior Bowl later this month.
That young man there, Banks, 5 for 7, passing 123 yards and a touchdown. And we're still in the first quarter. A lot of the scouts on hand watching it from the NFL think he will probably go at least maybe in the second round, maybe the 3rd round. They like his size, his speed, his poise. Young man who was a baseball player, drafted by the Minnesota Twins out of high school.
Was one of the real promising shortstop prospects in the Minnesota organization, but then he had rotator cuff surgery, went on to junior college, got back into the game of football, and then has come in a 2-year period of time to have an outstanding career, over 3,700 yards in just 2 years.
LSU staff assisting Colby Crawford off the field. They're starting strong safety out of Orlando, Florida. He got up and walked off the field. And Banks once again has a receiver, and a great defensive play by Alan Stansbury out of Baton Rouge.
Stansbury, very active linebacker, 6'1", 224 pounds, runs extremely well. He did a nice job of reading the eyes of quarterback Tony Banks, kept working in the direction that Banks was going to throw the ball, and then accelerated to get his hand on the ball once it was in the air.
There's a look at Stansbury, the junior, led the team in sacks from the linebacker spot. 6 sacks, most ever by an LSU inside linebacker, set a record for the school this year. 2nd and 10, the inside handoff to Renaud, has an opening, 45-40, cuts to the outside, and that's where he'll be chased out of bounds about the 31-yard line. Clarence Linton coming up from his free safety spot to chase Mark Renaud out of bounds after a gain of 20.
Mark Renaud is a young redshirt sophomore out of Deerfield Beach, Florida, one of the most highly recruited high school players a couple of years ago, and he's just really now starting to come into his own, and we see his ability to find the soft spot, make people missing at the line of scrimmage. He gained almost 1,000 yards in his redshirt sophomore year.
Needed just 22 yards to become the 12th Spartan ever to rush for over 1,000 yards in the season. He got 20 right there. 1st and 10, Michigan State driving once again. Score all tied up 7-7. Flags fly. Renaud once again the ball carrier. And Pat Rogers there on the stop for no gain. Going to get a motion penalty against the Spartans, so that'll bring it back 5 yards.
There's a flag on the play.
Taking a look at Terry Turlington, the referee here, officiating crew out of the Big 8 Conference.
Illegal motion on the offense, 5 yards, previous spot, repeat first down.
20th annual Poland Weed Eater Independence Bowl here in Shreveport, Louisiana. Bill Lewis and yours truly, Jerry Punch, bringing you this action. Exciting schools, Big 10, representative Michigan State, SEC school LSU. 2 teams have finished the season identical records, 6-4-1. In fact, identical conference records at 4-3-1. Hoping to get their programs back on track after a couple of years they did not have winning seasons. Once again, back to pass, getting some pressure. He has Mason in the end zone, and, whoa, he cannot hang on. One official signals touchdown, but he was shielded. The other 2 say, no, I did not hang on to the football. Denard Walker, the cornerback there on the coverage, but Mason had a step, and if he could have hung on to the football, it would have been 6.
Once again, LSU playing man-to-man coverage, and one of the keys is to be able to give your quarterback time until the receivers can beat that one-on-one coverage, and we saw that number 24, Walker, was beaten there at the end of that route by number 80, Derek Mason.
Banks was getting some pressure, able to get that one off. Michigan State 2nd and 15 on the motion penalty. I formation. And Banks will give it to the tailback Renaud, 35-30, and Renaud up to the 25-yard line. It will be short of the first down by about 6 yards. Great block up front by the fullback Garrett Gould, the freshman out of Troy, Michigan, the spring Mark Renaud. Earlier today at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta, there's a score of the Heritage Bowl. Southern 30, Florida A&M 25, and an exciting finish in that one. Of course, lots of bowl action yet to come later tonight. We're going to San Diego at the Jack Murphy Stadium for a big one in the Plymouth Holiday Bowl. 3rd and 4, Michigan State trying to keep their drive alive. Banks back to pass, has the screen set up. 10-5, 4-yard line. Denard Walker there to make the stop on Mark Renaud. A gain of 21 yards. Perfectly executed screen.
Offensive coordinator Gary Tranquil has the perfect call. LSU came with the blitz. One of the best plays you could have called against the blitz is the screen, because you get the blockers out in front, and there's only one man covering the tailback, Mark Renaud. There were 3 offensive linemen out in front. Great call. Nice job by Renaud running after the catch.
formation for the Spartans. First and goal, and a fumble on the center exchange. And Banks drops the football, and LSU will recover the fumble at about the 3-yard line. And Alan Stansbury there from his outside linebacker spot, the junior from Baton Rouge, and a turnover takes a scoring opportunity away from the Spartans.
What a critical mistake, and it appeared that Tony Banks pulled out just a little bit too soon. You saw the ball come up as the hands were being pulled out. Number 43, Alan Stansbury, LSU's outstanding linebacker, made the recovery. What a critical mistake. And Jerry, that's one of those things you wonder if the layoff and the number of times that you like to take that center quarterback exchange might have had something to do with that mishap.
Second turnover of the game here for Michigan State. This time the handoff to Cleveland, Kendall Cleveland, the redshirt freshman, trying to fight his way up near the 4-yard line. Carl Reeves there, junior from Oxford, Michigan, to make the stop. There's a look at Carl Reeves. Started 7 games this year, including the last 4. 74 tackles, 3rd leading tackler on the team. That's how active he was late in the year in just 7 starts.
This is one of the interesting matchups that occur in a football game. LSU takes the ball over deep in their territory. What they're trying so hard to do is to make at least 1 first down before they have to punt the ball. Michigan State wants to hold them right there, deny them the first down, make them punt from the end zone so they're guaranteed good field position.
And Tyler will call a timeout and think it over a little bit. Apparently did not get an idea what the play was he needed to call. We told you that we got some exciting bowl action following us here tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the Plymouth Holiday Bowl from Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego, as the 10th-ranked Kansas State Wildcats take on the Rams of Colorado State. All the exciting action coming up tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, and Adrian Karsten. If you just joined us earlier today, Spartan head coach for Michigan State, Nick Saban, said he was going to discipline 4 of his key starters for a curfew violation that actually occurred earlier in the week. 2 of the starters on the offense and 2 on defense. The 2 defensive starters, Reggie Garnett and Marvin Wright, are the 1st and 2nd leading tacklers, the 2 leading defenders they had on the Spartan football team. A lot of courage by Nick Saban also, but you got to admire him for sticking by his rules.
You really do. You admire him, you respect him. He has a few team rules. They're important to him, they're important to his team, and he enforced them against starting players. The one effect of that situation occurred earlier in the game when quarterback Tony Banks was hit from the backside by Gabe Northern, the all-SEC defensive end from LSU. He beat Bob Denton, their starting left tackle, one of the players suspended. His backup, Gabe Mudge, was beaten off of the corner, causing that turnover for Michigan State, and that's the only real visual effect that we've been able to see thus far in the game.
Second down, deep in their own territory. Cleveland again, a handoff up over the 5, 6, 7, up near the 10-yard line. Sorry Canoe there from a safety spot to make the stop. They will be short of the first down. Talking about Nick Saban again, Coach, you know, he said in the press conference yesterday, he said, I want to come to this program. He said, George Perlis left me with a lot of talent, a lot of kids with a lot of ability, and I wanted to sort of come in and do things my way, and I wanted to build some character. I wanted to instill some confidence in these kids, and when you build character, these kids, you give them the ability to make the correct decisions, either socially, athletically, and academically.
And he certainly followed up with that in that situation with the discipline as far as his 4 players in this ballgame is concerned.
Third and a couple, and Tyler will hand it off once again, and up near the 15-yard line. That should be enough for the first down is Kendall Cleveland. And that's exactly what LSU wanted to do here, was sustain the ball on their offense like they did against Arkansas. A couple of long drives early in that last game of the year gave LSU momentum they never relinquished.
Anytime you start out 1st and 10 inside your own 10-yard line, you can't imagine how critical that first down is on that drive. Also, we see why the LSU coaches like Kendall Cleveland so well. He's the guy that's really going to attack the defense. He's a 215-pound redshirt freshman running back, and they put the ball in his hands to get him off the goal line.
That's about the quietest that South End Zone crowd has been all day. This predominantly partisan LSU crowd, the sellout crowd, and a lot of them from nearby Baton Rouge. And once again, A mishandled snap. And a flag on the play. And a delay a game against LSU. They tried to hurry up the snap and couldn't quite beat the clock. That'll cost them 5 and not make that man smile very much.
We had an opportunity to talk to Morris Watts, the offensive coordinator, yesterday, and when Herbert Tyler took over the quarterback position, they tried to simplify the communication from the sideline to the huddle by putting all of the offensive plays on the wristband of the quarterback so that they would try to avoid such things as delay the game penalties.
There's a look at Morris Watts, the offensive coordinator. And again, the handoff to Cleveland around the right side, 10, 11, 12-yard line. And Dan Hackenbrack there to run him out from the middle linebacker spot. Clock is winding down. Had he not gotten out of bounds, that would have been the last play in the first quarter. Just 19 seconds remaining. All tied up, 7-8. If you just joined us, second play of the game, a 78-yard strike by quarterback Tony Banks from Michigan State to Muhsin Mohammed. They go up 7-zip. LSU comes back on their opening drive. A 6-yard gallop by Kendall Cleveland tied it up at 7 apiece. And that's where we stand here. 19 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Second and 12 for the Tigers, deep in their own territory. Motion by Falk. And he will get the pass at the 12-yard line. Dances around one defender, 2, and just can't quite get away. As Jabbar Threach is there from his right end position to make the stop.
Good call by offensive coordinator Morris Watts, utilizing Kevin Falk by putting him in motion. It's really just like running the sweeper, the option, where you take your tailback, get him out on the corner, get the ball in his hands quickly, and let him run one-on-one.
Back in Shreveport, Louisiana, after a quarter, we're all tied up, Michigan State and LSU, and that's a young man who's all tied up inside, waiting to get into this football game. Scott Green, 2-time MVP, and he's the senior fullback, one of 4 players disciplined, unable to start this ball game for missing curfew early in the week, and he was told by some of the coaches that we might put you guys in early in the second quarter, so we'll let you know. We'll keep an eye on Green. LSU, shotgun formation by Tyler, and the ball is swatted and picked off by Carl Reeves, and Reeves at the 20-15, and is finally caught from behind by Eddie Kennison to save the touchdown inside the 5, mark at the 3-yard line.
Carl Reeves is one of the outstanding athletes on the Michigan State football team. He's a 6'4", 227-pound junior from Oxford, Michigan. He's one of the most active players on their special teams. Outstanding linebacker, and he does a great job once again of reading the eyes of the quarterback, and when the ball was in the air, breaking to it, and then an exceptional job of putting that ball away, becoming a running back and getting it down inside the 5-yard line.
Both teams now with 2 turnovers, I formation, and the give to the fullback. His first carry is Scott Green, and he will score. First carry of the game by the senior from Canandaigua, New York. 2-time MVP for the Spartans after being disciplined, not able to play the first quarter. He comes in, takes the handoff, and will carry the ball in from 4 yards away.
This is what Michigan State does so well on the goal line. They put the ball in the hands of Scott Green. 16 rushing touchdowns during the season, and I know he feels good after the discipline situation to be able to go in and to help his teammates take an early second quarter lead.
And the extra point attempt is blocked from Chris Gardner, and they will scramble and cover the ball on the 6-yard line. So on the touchdown by Scott Green, a 3-yard scamper by Green makes it 13 Michigan State, LSU 7 with 14:43 remaining here in the first half.
There's no place on earth that I'd rather be than out in the open where it's all plain to see. If it's gonna get done, it's up to you and to me, and there's no place that I'd rather be. Come on along and head for the mountains of Bushmere. Head for the mountains, it's cold and it's smooth, and it's waiting for you. Come on, head for the mountains of Busch Beer.
Let's look at the Magnum Power Sales event one word at a time. Magnum, as in Magnum Engines, as in Dodge Ram, ranked most appealing pickup by J.D. Power & Associates. Power, overall the most powerful line of truck engines on the planet. Sales, save up to $670. Or lease a well-equipped Ram for $269 a month. And event, it's the first time America's hottest pickups have ever been on sale like this. At America's Truck Stop, the new Dodge.
Introducing tractors and mowers from Poland. The power you want at prices that let you bring high performance home without taking out a second mortgage. Dollar for dollar, feature for feature, it's hard to beat a Poland.
The 20th annual Poland Weed Eater Independence Bowl is brought to you by the new Dodge. We're thinking ahead. And by Thrifty Car Rental, historically known for low rates.
We'll take another look at the block extra point, which could prove to be a big play, and it appears that number 98, 6'6", Josh Freeman was able to extend himself and get those arms up in the middle and knock it down. Something that could really influence the outcome of this football game as we go along through the night.
Chris Gardner's up to tee it up for the Spartans of Michigan State. Eddie Kennison is deep. Low line drive, hits about the 15. There is Kennison at the 20, 25, has an opening to the outside, and he is at the 40, 45, one man to beat, and Kennison will score 30, 25, 20, 15, and mark it 6 for the Tigers. "92 yards, Eddie Kennison, junior from Lake Charles, Louisiana.
We see why Eddie Kennison, number 2, is a 4-time track All-American right here. Once he got the corner, saw the open field, he used that track speed to outrun the entire coverage unit of the Michigan State Spartans.
And the extra point by LaFleur is good, and just that quickly, we have back-to-back scores once again. We got them in the first quarter, now we get them in the second quarter, but the missed extra point by Michigan State cost them the tie. It is 14-13 LSU. Once again, another look, a 92-yard kickoff return by junior Eddie Kennison, whose previous long return was 46 yards in the opener against Texas A&M. And there is Kennison. Watch this again, an impressive run by the junior.
You really enjoy the athleticism of Kennison here. He saw daylight and he accelerated so quickly, he just exploded through it. And then once he got into the secondary, he outran number 14, the kicker, Chris Gardner.
Everyone all week, Coach, talked about the parity here in this football game. Identical record, 6-4-1, and we've got an identical football game. They score on back-to-back possessions in the first quarter. Michigan State scoring first on a 78-yard pass. LSU comes back, drives the length of the field, scores, ties at 7-7. Then on back-to-back possessions opening the second quarter, Michigan State takes the turnover in from 3 yards out to score, and then that return kickoff of 92 yards, and suddenly, once again, we're just a point apart.
The game has everything as far as the fans. We've got the great score, but also what's so important is we've had big plays on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
Here's Derek Mason, and he is 35, and Mason will take it back. 50, 45, back-to-back returns for touchdowns. 100 yards for the second time in his career. Junior Derek Mason did it a year ago against Penn State, and he does it here in the Independence Bowl.
And on that run, Derek Mason, in just his junior year, becomes the all-time Big Ten kickoff return leader. He came into the game with 31 returns, averaging 26.3 yards per game. We see another football on the field, came out of the end zone just prior to the kickoff. And And then Mason shows the same things that we saw from Eddie Kennison, the ability to find daylight, explode through daylight, and once he got in the open field, outrun the coverage team.
And Michigan State will go for 2, having missed the extra point on the previous touchdown. And here is Banks. He will give the ball inside to the fullback, Green, and he will fight his way over for the 2-point conversion.
Carry by Scott Green, 2-point conversion.
Wow, what a
14 minutes, 17 seconds.
incredible back-to-back events here at Shreveport, Louisiana. There's the medal right, Eddie Kennison. His was a 92-yard return for 7 points for LSU, and then a officially 100-yard return by Derek Mason. Back-to-back kickoff returns here. Take a look once again at this second return by Mason. There's another football right side of your screen. It came out of the stands, and Mason ignores that football, and so do everyone else, and 100 yards later, he's got 6.
Tremendous moves in the open field, and then that tremendous burst of speed that once he gets in the daylight, once he gets in the open, nobody catches him.
A year ago, he had a 100-yard return against Penn State. This year, he had 87-yarder against Indiana for a touchdown. It is the 3rd kickoff return of his career for a touchdown. This one again, 100 yards for Derek Mason, the junior from Detroit, Michigan. Well, we still haven't played a minute in the second quarter, and we've scored 3 touchdowns. Let's see if we can see how that football actually came back on the field after the extra point. There it comes. Well, they were throwing snowballs in New York last week, and they're throwing footballs here in Shreveport.
Ball actually was being returned from the stands from the previous extra point on the previous play.
Kevin Falk takes the kickoff, 25-30, oh, not again, 35-40, 42-yard line, and Falk has one guy to beat and one more cut, and suddenly we would have 3 kickoff returns for a touchdown. Eccles there to make the stop. 32-yard return by Kevin Falk.
Jerry, you look around the stadium, nobody wants to sit down. They don't want to miss anything. They just stayed up from kickoff to kickoff to kickoff.
All week long, the local press here and both coaches talking about how they really emphasize special teams play, that this game may not be won at the line of scrimmage, but more on the vertical field position and special teams. And boy, what a prediction that was.
I don't think they had the idea of that vertical field position being all the way into the end zone as we've seen it.
And here's a flanker around to Kennison, but it's diagnosed, and he cannot make the tackle. 40-45-yard line, and Kennison will tumble up near the 50 before Reggie Garnett, now in the football game. He was the leading tackler for the Spartans this year, missed the first quarter, and now playing here in the second quarter.
Reggie Garnett making the stop.
You like the call of Morris Watts here. Obviously, the excitement level is tremendous in the stadium, and he tried to take advantage of it, feeling like that Michigan State defense would really be flowing with the zone dive play, but they recovered, stayed at home, and made a nice play on Kennison.
Gain of 6, 2nd and 4 for LSU. Trying to drive once again and tie this football game up. Give the ball. He has running room on the outside, and it cuts it up at the 25-yard line, and Falk will score. The official pointed to the sideline, said no, he did not step out of bounds, and Kevin Falk takes it in from 51 yards out, and with the extra point coming up momentarily, once again, we're going to be tied here in Shreveport.
Jerry, I don't know if we can say it, but Kevin Falk obviously makes a great run, but he had a tremendous block by number 6, the flanker on the play.
Andre LaFleur on for the extra point.
It's the counter gap play, a tremendous block right there we saw right at the end of the play by Wilson.
And the extra point is good, and once again, we're all tied at 21 apiece here in Shreveport, Louisiana. 13 minutes and 11 seconds remaining in the second quarter, and we have scored 42 points here, folks. Stay tuned. This is going to be a barn burner. Back in a moment.
Let's look at the Magnum Power sales event, one word at a time. Magnum, as in Magnum engines, as in Dodge Dakota pickup. A little bigger, a lot better. Power, We're talking Dodge, overall the most powerful line of truck engines on the planet. Sales. How about up to $3,000 off Dakota? An event? Well, that means this special offer ends sooner than later at America's Truck Stop, the new Dodge.
Car rental was born at the airport, not long after man's first flight arrived. But soon man discovered reasons to rent that had nothing to do with flying. That's when thrifty car rental got rolling right in the neighborhood. Such convenience has made Thrifty's historically low rates a way of life, whether or not you happen to be flying. Your neighborhood thrifty car rental, historically known for low rates.
Wrangler jeans are soft and comfortable. And they get more soft and comfortable every time you wash them. Wrangler, real, comfortable jeans.
Pine Lake. 3 friends. 3 pair of Wrangler jeans. Everybody's comfortable. Even the fish. Wrangler. Real, comfortable jeans.
Back in Shreveport, Louisiana, there's a look at Kevin Falk, the young man who just scampered 51 yards to tie it up here in the 20th annual Poland Weed Eater Independence Bowl. 51-yard touchdown run ties a bowl record. The young man who is a true freshman from Corinne Crow, Louisiana. 5 carries, 102 yards, and a touchdown. Making up for that fumble earlier in the turnover deep in their territory. Wade Ritchie kicks it off. A low tumbler down to Derek Mason. Not going to give Mason a shot to catch it in the air, and Mason still dances over the 25, and then it's hammered out of bounds at about the 27-yard line by Kenny Mixon, backup defensive tackle.
By number 80, Derek Mason.
Jerry, we showed Kevin Falk, and we talked about his impact on this football game. When Jerry DiNardo was named the head coach at LSU a year ago, the very first young man that he visited after his press conference was Kevin Falk. And he certainly has shown throughout the entire season, and now carrying on into the bowl game, why he was one of the most highly recruited players in the country last year.
Off to the fullback, Green. He is around the right side, up near the 40-yard line. That'll be enough for the first down, gain of about 13.
Carried by Scott Green.
And here are some scores updates in the Sun Bowl. Washington trying to climb back in it against Iowa. Somewhat of a surprise. And the final from the Heritage Bowl today, Southern taking it over Florida A&M over the Rattlers. And, of course, the Holiday Bowl. Plymouth Holiday Bowl out in San Diego's Jack Murphy Stadium following our telecast from here in Shreveport tonight. They're going to have a tough act to follow here after this one. All the fireworks here in the first half. 42 points have been scored, and we still have 12 minutes to play in the first half. Once again, the handoff to Green, and he has a huge opening right side, 40, 35, 30, and he is finally tripped up, and that'll bring a flag. Possibly a block in the back downfield as Denard Walker, the cornerback there, to force Scott Green out of bounds after a gain of 33. Nigel Carter downfield blocking for Scott Green on the cornerback, and we've got a hold. Carter held his man, trying to get Denard Walker out of the way, but Walker's still able to make the tackle, but that'll cost him some yardage.
Holding.
And that run will come back.
10-yard penalty. Spot of the foul. First down.
You have to really appreciate the way Scott Green has come into the game. One of the things we talked about in the pregame show is how these players would respond that were disciplined once they got into the game. We saw Scott Green earlier on his first carry get the ball into the end zone for a Michigan State touchdown. Now running from the I formation position, breaks big into the LSU secondary.
Motion by Muhammad, bottom of your screen. Once again, the handoff to the big fullback, Green, and he will get maybe a couple. As Anthony McFarland, who has been nicknamed Earthquake by his teammates. Guess how big he is, 6'1", over 305 pounds, and he's there to make the stop. Bob Denton in the football game now, by the way. He was the senior offensive lineman that wasn't allowed to start. He has come in on this series, Denton in, out of Martinsville, Indiana. 2nd and 8. Banks looks downfield, will throw short over the outstretched hands of Scott Green, and had a receiver wide open downfield.
Just as Tony Banks made the decision, and that's one of the things we can't see from up top is what the quarterback's seeing, but just as he went to release the ball, Muhsin Muhammad, number 1, was running the deep corner route and broke wide open against that man-to-man coverage in the LSU secondary.
You saw the total yards thus far. We have almost 400 yards of total offense in this football game. There's still that much time to play in the first half, almost 12 minutes. Banks 6 of 11, 144 yards and a touchdown. That one a 78-yard strike from Muhsin Muhammad. Once again back and looking for a receiver, almost picked off by Torrey James.
Pass intended for Derek Mason, incomplete.
Torrey James is known throughout the Southeastern Conference as one of the best cover guys in the league, and we're going to see why. Watch the break on the football. Almost came up with a big interception.
Torrey James will play in the Senior Bowl. The NFL scouts say he is a definite prospect to play on Sunday. Chris Solani back to punt. Averaging 37 yards a kick this year for the Spartans. And deep to receive, Eddie Kinnison, leading punt returner in the SEC. High spiral, will hit about the 5-yard line and stop. Looked like a 9-iron shot and a great roll, and that's where Michigan State will down that punt at about the 6-yard line. So a great kick by Chris Solani, and LSU will take over deep in their own territory. Incredible start here to the 20th annual Polo Weed Eater Independence Bowl. If you joined us, if you didn't join us in the first quarter, you missed the first couple series, you missed 14 points. Michigan State scored on a 78-yard strike, their second offensive play. LSU drives back to tie it at 7-all in the second quarter. Well, all I can say is back-to-back kickoff returns. Running play for maybe a yard. Jamar Threets. Roddy in there to make the stop. Kevin Falk, the ball carrier. Coach, I don't think I've ever seen that much excitement in that short of a period of time in any college football game that I've witnessed.
Jerry, in all the years that I've been in coaching, I can't ever remember back-to-back kickoff returns and then have a third one, Kevin Falk breaking almost 40 yards. A tremendous excitement to the football game, and it's great that we have that kind of excitement in front of this sellout crowd.
And a 92-yarder by Kinnison, a 100-yarder by Mason, and a 51-yard run by Falk as the whistles blow. And that will be a delay of game against LSU. And you talked about, Coach, the concern from the LSU coaching staff about their true freshman quarterback, about getting some of the plays in. They're going to wear that little wrist, Coach, so he can look at the play, try to make it simple. They just signal in a number, but then again, it's costing them some valuable time.
This is the second time now they've had a delay of the game penalty, and offensive coordinator Morris Watts told us a humorous situation in Herbert Tyler's first start against North Texas. They went with the wristband. The first play of the game, they were late coming out of the huddle. They called timeout. Tyler came to the sideline. He said, "What's wrong?" He said, "Coach, I got my wristband on upside down. Can't read the plays."
And he gives this one to Falk, who dances and doodles his way up over the 20. And Falk has got one man to beat downfield, 50, 45, cuts it back, 35, 30. And finally, Ike Reese, the linebacker, had the angle and is able to catch Falk as he cut it back. And once again, a long game.
Reese finally tracks him down.
Kevin Falk is certainly saving his best for last as far as his freshman year is concerned. Just an outstanding job of taking the zone dive, finding the soft spot back behind the offensive center. Some great blocks on the backside, some great blocks downfield. Backside tackle number 74, Sean Wells, was the one that really opened up the cutback for Falks to get back into that soft spot. Also another outstanding block by wide receiver number 6, Shedrick Wilson. The second time he's made a key block downfield for Falk.
Take a look at those numbers. 7 rushes, 170 yards. That was a 68-yard run by Falk. He gets a breather. And another outstanding freshman comes in, and he turns the ball loose. And the officials there will say the ball was down, and Michigan State will protest. They're saying his knee was down. It'll bring up a second down. At Kendall Cleveland, the ball carrier. The coach talking about Kevin Falk. They made the point to us early in the week that his name is Kevin Falk. He is not related whatsoever to Marshall Falk. Marshall from New Orleans, Kevin is from Corinne Crow, Louisiana, which is in the western part of the state near Lafayette. They may not be related, but they look very similar on the football field.
They certainly do, and I think it's important to note that Kevin Falk is certainly going to make a name for himself. I know he'll be compared throughout probably his whole career with Marshall, but he is one of the real outstanding young running backs in all of college football.
And Tyler gets smothered under, back up to the 35-yard line. That'll bring up a 3rd and long. Take a look at Thunder and Lightning. That's the nickname for the 2 freshman running backs, Falk and Cleveland. Let's see what they've done. Falk, 7 rushes, 170 yards, 1 touchdown. Not bad at all. Cleveland, 8 rushes, 34 yards, and a touchdown. So between the 2 freshman running back, yeah, I said freshman. One's a true freshman. That's Falk. He's the true freshman, number 3 there. And Cleveland is a redshirt freshman, number 32. Between those 2, they have over 200 yards of offense just between the 2 of them.
2 touchdowns to go with it, and we're not even at halftime yet, Jerry.
Well, if you're Jerry DiNardo, you got to be smiling and thinking about the future of LSU football with those youngsters on the football team. Okay, the screen to the tailback. Cleveland is diagnosed by Ike Reese and maybe a yard gain, and they're saying they got a hold of the ball, but official will beg to differ.
Early in the game, I'm very impressed. You know, we talked an awful lot about the speed of the LSU defense coming into the game. I'm impressed with the way Michigan State's 2 outside linebackers run. Number 44, Ike Reese, who we just saw making that play. And then we have seen the effects of Carl Reeves and the way he can chase that football. Outstanding speed for the Spartans at their linebacker positions.
All SEC punter Chad Kessler back to kick to Derek Mason deep, standing about his own 10-yard line. Flags fly. Low floater will hit about the 7-yard line and be picked up at the 1. A great move. Chris Beard, the backup flanker there on special teams, to down that football on the 1-yard line. But there was a flag on the play as the ball was snapped. Going to be a procedure penalty called against LSU. And that definitely will bring it back, because Michigan State will want that ball kicked over again.
Jerry, what a critical special teams mistake here. Michigan State would have started out with the ball on the 1-yard line. It still might end up there after this punt, but this could be a big mistake as far as that vertical field position that you work so hard to establish with your special teams.
We told you we had a sellout crowd here at Shreveport, Louisiana. It's gotten quiet here. I think the fans are exhausted. I think they are worn out. After back-to-back kickoff returns, a 51-yard run by Kevin Falk. And we got some folks, but hey, more special teams plays. So folks, you may want to get on your feet. This might be a good one here, as LSU will call a timeout and think about it. So we'll take timeout with them. 8 minutes and 1 second remaining here in the first half. We're all tied at 21 each. Back in a moment.
It's that time of year. Time for the 17th annual Toyotathon.
The time is now.
Right now to get the best Toyotathon deals you've been waiting for all year.
Toyota Camry, called the best car built in America. Now get special 2.9% financing for 24 months.
Incredible!
You can also choose 4.9 for 36 months or 6.9 for 48 months.
Toyotathon, you can't beat the deals.
Time is running out.
See your Toyota dealer now.
It's a 30-hour tour of the 1995 NASCAR Winston Cup circuit, a real round trip. ESPN2 presents a special year-end television event. 8 Winston Cup races, 30 hours of speed, power, and excitement. A NASCAR marathon of the most thrilling races of 1995. Race into the new year with 30 hours of NASCAR, beginning Sunday night at 8:30 p.m. only on ESPN2. If you don't have ESPN2, call your local cable operator or satellite provider.
Back in Shreveport, Louisiana, we've got a barn burner here. 42 points have been scored, and we're still in the second quarter. Yes, 8 minutes left to go in the second quarter, and even he can't believe it. That's the Spartan from Michigan State. He's all fired up watching the action. LSU having to re-kick after a procedure penalty. Kessler gets a good one off again, and it will hit on the 4-yard line and be down at the 4. So back-to-back outstanding kicks by the All-SEC punter, Chad Kessler. Great bowl game still coming your way tomorrow. We go to Memphis, Tennessee at 12 p.m. Eastern time. It's the Liberty Bowl. Stanford 7-3-1 taking on the Pirates of East Carolina. And that's to be followed by the Peach Bowl. I'll be in Atlanta tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern time for Virginia taking on Georgia. Going to be a hard act to follow. I thought that bowl game early in the week on ESPN, the Copper Bowl, was something 96 points score. We may beat that one here. We're still in the first half, and 42 have been scored. Michigan State deep in their own territory and smothered at about the 1-yard line. He will be thrown for about a 2-yard loss. Chuck Wiley is there. Michigan State trying to get the ball out of the shadow of their own goal line. An important possession for them.
A tremendously important possession, and this is where LSU's defense tries to smother you. They're going to get 10 people up close to the line of scrimmage. Their corners will be tighter to the line of scrimmage than their linebackers. The only player playing deep will be their free safety playing about 10 yards in the middle of the field.
Second down from their own 1-yard line, and he is stoned at the line of scrimmage. And LSU's players are signaling safety, but not quite. Torrey James from his left cornerback spot, and as you said, Coach, the speed here really taking over for LSU. Inside, able to gamble a little bit deep in the Michigan State territory. The last 4 games of the year, this program, LSU's Tigers, allowing 6.5 points only total in the last 4 football games per game.
What they do in this position of the field, they simply put more people on the line of scrimmage than the offensive line can possibly block. There are 10 players up close to the line of scrimmage.
Third and about 14. Make it 13 from their own 1-yard line. Need to get up almost to the 20-yard line. Banks rolling to his right, has a receiver upfield. It's Muhammad, and Muhammad is about 2 yards shy of the first down. Well, he will have the first down. Denard Walker there to make the catch, make the tackle.
Tremendous call by offensive coordinator Gary Tranquil, and it also shows his confidence in his senior quarterback Tony Banks and how well he handles himself in the end zone. Very patient, steps up inside his protection and finds Muhammad on the sideline. Big completion, big first down to get him off the goal line.
A lot of poise and composure by the senior quarterback from San Diego, California, dancing around in his own end zone, making the completion for the first down. He has a little bit of breathing room now. I formation. They will give it to the tailback, Renaud. 20, 25. He has an opening. 35. And he is finally brought down from behind by Clarence Linton and Alan Stansbury, the free safety and outside linebacker. But a great block by the fullback, Travis Reese.
Great look at Renaud and his ability to get outside behind the block of number 45, Garrett Gould, the 6'2", 230-pound freshman fullback who's playing quite a bit tonight in that fullback spot.
There's a look at Mark Renaud, the sophomore tailback, 8 carries, 63 yards here in the first half. Once again, Banks looking deep, has a receiver wide open downfield and just overthrows Derek Mason, who had beaten the defender by about 3 yards. Mason wide open on the 15-yard line, and Banks got a little bit too much air under it.
Derek Mason does a good job. He came down and with a little hesitation move that we didn't quite pick up on camera, and then just accelerated and ran right by Torrey James, playing that famous man-to-man coverage of the LSU defense.
And remember, Torrey James considered to be the best cover man in the LSU secondary, a secondary that led the SEC in pass efficiency defense this year and was 6th in the nation. That's how quick Mason was to get by him. 2nd and 10, and flags fly. Both sides of the offense and defense jumping off. We'll let the officials sort it out.
Dead ball, false start on the offense, 5 yards, previous spot,
And it'll cost Michigan State 5. 5 minutes, 55 seconds remain here in the 20th annual Poland Weeder Independence Bowl, and they're standing up. Even the players who are not able to play don't want to miss a play in this one. There's the backup place kicker, Barisic. Some of the Michigan State players down here enjoying the great climate and atmosphere in Shreveport, Louisiana. Banks on the inside handoff to Green, the fullback, and he is up near the 40-yard line. Chuck Wiley, left tackle there to make the stop on Green.
Jerry, what Michigan State has done now a couple times in each of their last 2 series is they've lined up number 45, Garrett Gould, at the fullback position, and Scott Green, who is normally their fullback, has taken a couple snaps from the tailback spot. And what it does, it gives them a good complement at the tailback position. Mark Renaud is known as an outside speed type of runner. Scott Green at 230 pounds is a much more north and south power type guy. Good complement to the Spartan offense.
And one Michigan State player down on that as the trainers right on the field to take a look. And that is the ball carrier, Scott Green, able to get up and walk off with the trainers. Boy, what a force he has been for the Spartans for 2 years. 2-time MVP for Michigan State. Just the 4th player in Spartan history to win back-to-back Most Valuable Player awards. The last guy to do it, Coach, Lorenzo White. Pretty good tailback himself.
Pretty good tailback himself. You're right. And this year, Scott has been so effective. He's had 16 touchdowns, 104 points. That was second best in the Big Ten and number 4 in the NCAA.
Muhammad in motion, shotgun formation by Tony Banks. 3rd and long, 9 yards to go. Bank looks upfield, has a receiver, and that'll be good enough for the first down, depending on the spot. They will spot it near the 50, and that was Derek Mason. Mason's reception for about an 11-yard gain, good enough for the first.
We're going to see the effect of the speed of Mason being able to push the cornerback, number 24, Walker. This creates separation. Tony Banks doing an outstanding job of avoiding the rush. He stepped outside of the rush, got the ball to Mason as he made the break.
LSU secondary showing a little more respect for Derek Mason after he's run by him a couple times and on some deep threats, so they're giving him a little room. That enabled him to make the 11-yard reception for the first down. Michigan State at midfield. The give to the tailback, Renaud, and he will ball forward for about 2.5. Brian Masalem, the Michigan State right guard, limping as he gets up and moves back to the huddle. Academic All-Big Ten player.
Jerry, it's very obvious what you've said is so true, that the speed of the Michigan State wide receivers has certainly got the respect of the LSU corners, because they're showing a tight press coverage, but on the snap of the ball, they are bailing out of there and respecting the speed.
And that one upfield, Najee Carter down to the 40-yard line.
To number 81, Najee Carter.
And Torrey James there to make the stop. College Game Day Bowl Special coming your way Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Chris Lee and Craig preview the biggest college football bowl day of the year with a special look at the Outback Steakhouse Bowl coming your way from Tampa, Florida. What a great week for college football and college football fans here on ESPN. Once again, again to the tailback, Mark Renaud, James Gilliard there to make the stop. Well, if you're a football fan, Coach, and you enjoy sports, just get you a big bowl of popcorn, sit there from Monday to Monday, and just have a great time. We've had some superb football games.
If you're a college football fan, there is no time like bowl week, where you have a chance to see some of the top football teams in the country, and in a lot of cases, Jerry, people get a chance to see teams that they haven't seen at any other time during the season.
11th play of the drive for Michigan State. Line of scrimmage, the LSU 39-yard line. 2nd and 9, and once again the handoff to the tailback, and he is smothered at the line of scrimmage. In fact, may have lost about a half a yard. Pat Rogers there to make the stop, the junior from here in Shreveport, Louisiana. Remember, this drive started in their own 4-yard line after a punt that was an outstanding kick that had been downed once at the 1, and in the procedure penalty had LSU kick it again. They downed it at the 4. Chad Kessler, the all-conference, all-SEC punter, back-to-back outstanding kicks. And now Michigan State has driven from the shadow of their goal line down to the LSU 40. 3rd and 10. Shotgun formation by Banks. 2 wide receivers near side of your screen. Muhammad is open at the 20-yard line, and he overthrows him. Muhsin Muhammad, who is the roommate of Tony Banks, was wide open and just a little too much muscle on that pass, or else it would have been 1st and 10 from about the 19.
You gotta like the arm strength of that young quarterback Banks. He stands tall in the pocket, and there's not a throw that he can't make. He can throw the deep out route. He can throw the deep ball on the takeoffs and the post route, and then he also has a good touch of throwing the ball back short up underneath the coverage.
Well, it's special teams time again, folks, so you may want to put your seatbelts on. Chris Solani back to kick it to the leading punt returner in the SEC, Eddie Kinnison. Solani trying to kick away, angle toward the coffin corner, and it will bounce in the end zone, and LSU will have it on their own 20-yard line. 2 minutes, 14 seconds remaining here in the first half of the 20th annual Poland Independence Bowl in Shreveport. We are all tied, 21-21. Back in a moment.
Where does Napa keep over 200,000 different parts? Right up here. Now remember, your belt tension on this is critical. What kind of car is it? Well, I'll sell you all the struts you want, but I wouldn't recommend putting them in without the right tools. I'm sure we have it. Okay, is it a 77 or a 78? Because they changed the carburetor in 78. Actually, that's not a stupid question at all. I know what it used to be. You don't stay at Napa long handing out the wrong answers, and I'm not planning on going anywhere.
America running.
How do you amaze an amazing mouth? Well, why not start with Long John Silver's Flaky Fish? The batter dip twist no mouth can resist. Pick up our crunchy golden shrimp or tender all-white chicken. Famous batter dip fish, chicken, and shrimp. 3 delicious ways to amaze your mouth. Only at Long John Silver's.
Oh, yes.
It's the amazing 25-cent shrimp sale. Golden batter dip shrimp now just $1/4 each. No limit.
Hey, get poppin'. This is a taste you can't resist. I say put a can in every hand. Do the Pringles twist like this. Power top, well, keep it fresh. Slip it in. Grab a stack of your favorite snack. Let the fun begin.
There's no stopping once you pop.
Hey, wake up. Don't get caught holding that bag. Hey, that's no party. Greasy pieces are a drag.
There's no stopping once you pop.
Once you pop,
Back at a sold-out Independence Stadium in Shreveport, Louisiana, our score all tied 21 apiece here as we approach the first half, and that's the man, Kevin Falk, that these folks in Tigerland are going to be watching for the next 4 years. True freshman. That young man is impressive. 7 rushes, 170 yards, averaging 24.3 yards every time he touches the football. And they give it to the redshirt freshman tailback, Kendall Cleveland. And he will get maybe a yard at best. Marvin Wright there from the left safety spot to make the tackle. Marvin Wright, one of those players who did not start the game as a result of a disciplinary maneuver by head coach he was one of the 4 players that had a curfew violation. There's the total yards. Boy, what an offensive shootout we've had here in the first half. There's a look at Marvin Wright, second leading tackler for the Spartans. And this the handoff once again to Cleveland, left side, 21, 22 yards, maybe a couple of yards. And that's all for Kendall Cleveland. Let's go out to Tempe, Arizona, and check in with Mike Tirico. Michael?
All right, Dr. Jerry, coming up on the New Dodge Halftime Report, highlights of the earlier bowl game, the Sun Bowl, Iowa and Washington, about the Fiesta Bowl, updated news, and we'll tell you the special teams factor of this game. Lee and Craig will look into that, and we'll talk about Gary Barnett, a coach in the limelight this bowl week. All coming up from Tempe at halftime. We'll see you then, Dr. Jerry.
Thank you very much, Michael. We look forward to those reports from Tempe, Arizona. Boy, it's going to be hard to have a better one than this one, but a lot of folks talking about that game coming up on January 2nd, Coach.
It's tremendously exciting for the sport of college football. Anytime you have an opportunity to have a true national championship game like we have in Tempe, you've got two great football teams, two outstanding football coaches, and it's captured the imagination and the excitement of the entire college football world. Should be a great game.
Now, you've been there on postseason play as Jerry DiNardo is enjoying it here. You see him, the LSU coach, on the sidelines. What do you tell your kids when you come to the postseason play? You want to let them have a good time, but you also want to let them understand that there's got to be some serious tone. You've got to put that game face on the night before the game.
A couple things are important. Number one is that the bowl game is a reward for an outstanding season, so you do want your players to come. You want them to have fun. You want them to enjoy the hospitality that's provided by the bowl committee and the bowl site people. But at the same time, you want them to work. You want them to understand when it's time to work and how they have to work. And then as you get into the 48 hours before the game, the focus goes to the football game. That's the real reason you're here.
3rd and 8, and Falk gets the handoff. He will get maybe a yard and a half, and Michigan State will use another timeout, as Michigan State had called timeout a moment ago, hoping to be able to keep LSU deep in their own territory and maybe get the ball back here as the time runs out in the first half.
One of the other things that's important in a bowl situation is that you come in and you have an opportunity to take advantage of all the things that are here to take advantage of. But then you have a chance to really focus on the game. Both of these coaches set as a goal to get to the bowl game. We had an opportunity to talk to both of them yesterday, and that was no longer enough. They got here, and then both of them wanted to win the game. So as they got into that day before the game mode, they were excited because it was game time and an opportunity to win a bowl game in their first year at the head coaching position of their respective schools.
They said their first goal was to get here, and their second goal was to win it. And Kessler, who has launched a 64-yarder this year, will not get off a very good kick. It's a great roll, and down about the 35-yard line, Derek Mason there to pick it up and try to get some yardage. A 41-yard kick, most of it on the ground after the roll, and a 4-yard return. We told you we had some excitement early in the second half, and we're going to show you some of that excitement. Eddie Kinnison from 92 yards away.
And watch the speed here. He's a 4-time track All-American, a sprinter on the LSU track team, and once he found the daylight, he just turned it on and outran the entire coverage team.
And Banks on the completion upfield to the 50-yard line. Derek Mason makes the catch and able to get out of bounds.
Pass complete to Derek Mason.
Coming up at halftime, the new Dodge halftime report. Henderson is signed. We're going to have news from the Fiesta Bowl and the coach in the limelight, Gary Barnett at Northwestern. And there's some Tiger fans that have come from Tigerland, about 250 miles south of here. Your mama must be so proud. Young man enjoying supporting his college. And once again, a rifle shot to Derek Mason. That's about an 11-yard gain. They're going to mark it right at the spot of the first down. Less than a minute to play here in the first half. And the officials will call a timeout for the spot and possibly a measurement. Second play in a row that Tony Banks has been able to find Derek Mason, and Banks really showing he's got a gun.
You really have to be impressed with the way he can stand in the pocket and make all the throws. He's thrown 2 consecutive deep out routes, both of them with tremendous velocity, and simply not giving the LSU secondary an opportunity to react and break on the football.
Got to give Nick Saban a lot of credit. They lost the opening game by 40 points in Nebraska. That program could really have gone down the tubes, and he got his kids together and said, we're going to build this program. We're going to go one game at a time. And after that opening, that devastating loss to Nebraska, they won 6 of the next 10 to play their way here into the Independence Bowl. Banks will scramble 40-35, and They may need to use their final timeout as Stansbury there to make the stop. We told you early in the second half that Eddie Kennison ran 92 yards for a touchdown. Well, on the subsequent kickoff, take a look here at Derek Mason's 100-yard effort.
Derek had a football coming to him from both directions, one being thrown out of the stands as well as the one being kicked at him. He caught the right one, and he knew what to do with it, and you just marvel at the kick return ability of both Mason and Kennison in this game, and they've not done it just tonight, Jerry. These two young guys have done it all season for their football teams.
There's a look at Derek Mason, Big Ten's all-time leading kickoff returner. He surpassed Mel Anderson at Minnesota, who had set the record at 1,965 yards, needed just 47 yards, and he did that all in just one return a moment ago. .33 seconds remaining here in the first half. 20th annual Poland Weed Eater Independence Bowl. First ever sellout here in Shreveport for this ball game in 20 years, and boy, these fans have certainly got their money's worth. Michigan State now out of timeouts. LSU still has one to spare. Line of scrimmage, the LSU 33-yard line. Banks looking upfield, has a receiver, and he juggles it and can't quite hang on. That is Derek Mason. He had Mason and Muhammad about 4 yards apart, both open.
Is incomplete. Third down.
That'll bring up a third down situation.
Jerry, we might look for Tony Banks to try to go deep and take a shot at the LSU end zone. He's thrown the ball up in front of those corners. The coverage has gotten tighter with each throw. Look for possibly an out and up or maybe a little hesitation in the deep ball. Try to get it in the end zone one time before the half.
Mason has beaten Torrey James a couple of times deep. This time he tries the inside route, and he can't hang on. He gets a lick. He takes a little bit of punishment there from Torrey James, the cornerback senior from Marrero, Alabama, or Louisiana.
Torrey James brings up fourth down.
Well, Coach, fourth down. Line of scrimmage. I'm not sure you want to try to kick one from here. I'm not sure your kicker, Chris Gardner's longest of the year, 37 yards.
You're definitely out of his range here, Jerry, and what you need to do is take a shot at it. You still do have enough time to get the first down and another couple plays after that.
It would be a 49-yard field goal had they attempted it from here. They will not. Fourth down. Banks looking downfield, has Muhammad over the middle, 30, 25, 20, and he will get out of bounds with 15 seconds left in the first half and the first down.
Give me another ball. Give me another ball.
Michigan State does a nice job here of running the double crossing route. We're going to see two receivers cross right in the middle of the screen, trying to rub off the man-to-man coverage that they were getting from the LSU secondary.
15 seconds of play in the first half. Our score all tied at 21 apiece. Michigan State now driving. That was Muhammad's fifth reception, 129 yards and a touchdown. Banks looking downfield, and he will be thrown. He gets rid of the football, but Gabe Northern, the two-time consensus All-SEC defensive end there to put the hurry on Tony Banks.
Gabe Northern had 9 sacks this year. He has 21 sacks for his career at LSU. We mentioned earlier he's a first-team All-SEC. He's going to be playing a little bit later in the Senior Bowl. But one of the things he is most proud of is he is carrying a 4.0 grade point average at LSU. Just an outstanding student athlete.
2nd and 10. 11 seconds remain in the first half. Banks trying to look toward the end zone. He will toss it there, and just over the hands of Derek Mason. Had Mason made the catch, he probably would have been out of the back of the end zone, so it's all academic, but Mason had a step once again on Torrey James.
Take a look again at Tony Banks throwing it out of the shotgun, trying to get the ball one time in the end zone. A good call by Gary Tranquil. Good coverage, though, by Torrey James. Denied the Spartans in the end zone. You have to take a shot at the end zone one time. You know there's 5 seconds left. You got a chance to come back with the field goal. And Gary did a nice job of getting the ball down into the end zone to take a shot at the touchdown.
And LSU will use their final timeout to try to ice Chris Gardner, the place kicker. Gardner, 11 of 15 field goals on the year. This one will be a 37-yarder. They will spot the ball at the 27-yard line.
Immediately. Will the X-ray tech please report to the X-ray room immediately?
There's Jerry DiNardo, and he has to be awfully proud of the efforts of his offensive team in the first half, and particularly this guy right here. Incredible efforts by Falk, Kevin Falk. This 51-yard nifty run tied an Independence Bowl record, and that was the 3rd score in about 2 minutes and 15 seconds early in the second quarter. Yeah, they had 3 touchdowns in about 2 minutes and a half here as we started off the second quarter. So we stand at 21 apiece. 42 points have been scored here in the first half, and we have a shootout in Shreveport. Gardner is 3 of 5 from 30 to 39 yards this year. This is a 37-yard attempt. They're trying to put the Spartans up by 3. Kick is up, and it is good. So with 1 second remaining here in the first half, Michigan State will take a 3-point lead on a 37-yard field goal by sophomore Chris Gardner out of Plantation, Florida.
Chris Gardner does a nice job of getting the ball in the air with a lot of height. Several of those LSU 6'5", 6'6" guys jumping at it, but he got the ball up in a hurry and right on target.
And I hate to bring this up, but remember, they got 1 player down on the field there with a second to play in the first half. Looks to be Greg Hill, the strong safety, and the nickelback as they attend to him. I started to say I hate to bring this up, Coach, but with a second to go in the first half, and someone's going to kick off to someone.
I think it's safe to say, Jerry, this ball's not going to be kicked very far, and it's not going to get off the ground. You're going to have to force one of those front guys to
well,
cover.
I'll tell you what, if you would kick this one deep to Eddie Kennison, I'd almost think you'd want to head that guy for the bus, because Kennison can absolutely turn it up. So I would expect a pooch kick here as they are able to help Greg Hill off the field. He gets up and walks off under his own power. And there is Kennison trying to ignite this crowd of partisan LSU fans. A sellout here in Shreveport. And what a first half they have seen. 45 points have been scored by these 2 football teams representing 2 of the premier conferences in America, the Big Ten and the SEC. That's the onside or pooch kick we expected, and that will run out the clock here in the first half. At the end of 1 half here, we have 45 points scored. Michigan State leads LSU 24-21. And Mike, what has been a shootout here in Shreveport? Yeah.
Wild first half there. We'll have an interesting halftime for you here. We will have highlights of the Sun Bowl, baseball news, and we'll talk more about the Fiesta Bowl, which is 4 days away, and special teams. You've seen what a factor special teams can be in a bowl game. We'll talk about special teams, Nebraska and Florida, when Craig and Lee join me at the half of the Independence Bowl. Our score.
This halftime report is brought to you by the new Dodge.
Welcome back to Tempe, Arizona. Wild first half of the Independence Bowl. Michigan State leading LSU by 3 at the break. And, of course, the second half is ahead. We welcome you to the new Dodge halftime report. Craig and Lee will join me in a bit. Some Nebraska injury news will get you updated. But first, highlights of an earlier bowl game today, the Sun Bowl. For that, back to the studio. And a hello to Susan's touchdown, helping the Tigers stay within 3. LSU 21. Coming up after this game, our eyes off of Adrian's smiley face, to say Lee. One brief note on our game coming up between Kansas. Got another second half to go here at the Independence Bowl. Michigan State, LSU. Let's go back to Shreveport, Dr. Jerry Punch. Jer?
Thank you, Michael. Back in Shreveport, Louisiana. What a first half these fans have enjoyed here at our halftime score, 45-41, 45-42. Michigan State, incredible first half. I think even their coaches there had to be a little bit surprised. They thought it would be a defensive struggle.
They certainly did. And what we saw, Jerry, was the effect of the suddenness and the excitement of special teams plays. 2 outstanding kickoff returns. The big surprise to me in the first half is the number of points that Michigan State put up on the board. 24 points. In their last 4 games, they had given up just 26 points.
Over 550 yards of total offense in the first half, a couple of turnovers each. Time of possession in favor of Michigan State, as is the scoreboard by 3 points, 24-21 here at halftime. Michigan State over LSU. And there is Eddie Kennison. He took one back in the second quarter, 92 yards. Chris Gardner's up to tee it up in the second half. Glad to have you with us, Bill Lois and Jerry Park. Second half of the Polar Eater Independence Bowl. Kennison from his own 3-yard line. Up over the 15, 20, has an opening, and he is brought down at the 25-yard line by Dan Hackenbrack. Take a look at some of the highlights here in the first half, and there were quite a few of them.
First one we're going to see is the 92-yard kickoff return by Eddie Kennison. The suddenness, we talked about, the excitement is all here as he saw daylight, used his speed to go 92 yards for the LSU touchdown. Not to be outdone was Derek Mason. On the ensuing kickoff, Mason takes it right on the goal line, actually a yard deep in the end zone, sees daylight up the middle, makes the kicker miss in the middle of the field, and then uses his speed to go all the way.
In and out of the hands of David LaFleur. First play of the second half for LSU. Tyler faked a handoff to Falk. Had LaFleur back in the flat on the backside, but penalty flags have flown, and the LSU players are pointing toward Michigan State. Got a personal foul against Michigan State. Apparently a roughing the passer call against on Herb Tyler, the freshman quarterback for LSU, and they will mark off some serious yardage.
Personal foul, roughing the passer.
We'll have an opportunity to see right at the end of the play, number 94, not only did he come in and hit him late, but he speared him with the crown of the headgear. Number 94, Jabbar Threets, with the late hit and the 15-yard penalty.
Threets, who led the team with 11 tackles for a loss in 1995. Tied for second on the team with 5 sacks. Little late, that'll cost them 15 yards. First possession of the second half, 24-21, Michigan State at halftime. And once again, the Yellow Hankies come out, and Tyler looking deep, wide open is Kennison down on about the 12-yard line, and he will make the catch. Ray Hill, the right cornerback, 47 yards, but the penalty flags are laying back upfield. Wide open downfield was Eddie Kennison, had about 3 yards over the defender, Ray Hill, the sophomore from Detroit. And Herb Tyler laid it out there beautifully.
Jerry, the officials are sorting out the penalties. We've got 2, one at the snap of the ball, and then there was also a dead ball foul involving 2 players got in a little mix-up after the catch and tackle downfield.
I'm sure our Big 8 crew will straighten it out, and referee Terry Turlington will tell us offside Michigan State and a personal foul Michigan State. So both penalties against the Spartans, and the play will stand.
We're going to get a look at the fine job by Herb Tyler as Eddie Kennison, number 2, got behind number 10, Ray Hill. The personal foul occurred back up in the middle of the field beyond that play. We saw 96 come in and hit on the quarterback after the ball, number 96, Chris Smith.
And Kennison will get a breather on the sidelines, as that'll make it 1st and goal for LSU here in the opening possession of the second half. Line of scrimmage, the Michigan State 5-yard line. Spartans up by 3. The pitch to Falk. 3-2-1 touchdown. Play of the first half where both teams scored on the opening possession. LSU takes it in the opening possession here in the second half and marches the length of the field to score. Falk over from 5 yards away. Andre LaFleur on for the extra point. The kick is up and good.
Herb Tyler almost fell down coming out of the center quarterback exchange, but he managed to get the ball to Falk, and he got in behind big 302-pound Anthony McFarland for the touchdown. We'll see it here from the end zone. Watch 94 up in front, lead the way up into the hole, finish off the linebacker, and allow Falk to get into the end zone. What happened during halftime is everybody in this stadium simply caught their breath from the excitement of the first half, and as the second half was about to begin, they gave an extra tug to their seat belts, and LSU didn't disappoint them in their first series.
My goodness, less than a minute gone in the second half, and we've got 7 more on the board. This time the Tigers go back up on top. The final run, 4 yards away by Kevin Falk. Wade Ritchie on to kick it off.
Wade Ritchie to kick off for LSU.
He was a USA Today High School All-American kicker a couple of years ago. Has a tremendously strong leg. He is the place kicker of the future for the Tigers. But they're going to the guy who's very dangerous, and they're not going to him at all. No way. They're kicking it to the up man. And he is smothered about the 38-yard line. That's the linebacker, Ledyard. And that's where Michigan State will take over possession.
Kickoff returned by number 53, Courtney Ledyard.
I saw the maintenance man running downstairs a moment ago to grab a whole box of light bulbs. They're going to need them for that scoreboard. We keep lighting it up here. They 28-24. Now, the Independence Bowl record here, the Poland Wheat Eater Independence Bowl record was set back in 1992. Wake Forest and Oregon, a combined 74 points, with Wake Forest holding on for a 39-35 victory. And I think we have a shot at breaking that tonight. Back to pass, the completion upfield. The tight end, Josh Kerr, banks to Kerr for a very small gain, about 1.5 yards.
Josh Kerr.
Now they're saying the pass was not completed. Kerr did not hang on. Apparently he trapped the football and it came loose on the ground, so that'll bring up a 2nd and 10. Sellout crowd here in Shreveport, Louisiana. 20th anniversary of the Poland Wheat Eater Independence Bowl. Glad to have you with us. Bill Lewis, yours truly, Jerry Punch, bringing you exciting college football action on ESPN. Still got another one coming your way later tonight from San Diego. Banks back to pass, has a receiver, Mohammed, at the 50-yard line. And Muhsin Mohammed, that's the tandem that opened the scoring here in this football game. If you missed the first half, you missed a lot of points. Second play from scrimmage, Banks to Mohammed, 78 yards, and that's how it all started. Michigan up 7-0, and it's been just Katie bar the door since.
Tony Banks comes right back out after a 200-yard plus first half, and he's 2 for 2 and throwing the hard ball once again.
Tailback Mark Renaud has no running room whatsoever. Gabe Northern there, the 2-time All-SEC defensive end, to make the stop for a loss of about 2.5, make it 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Jerry, one of the disadvantages of not having you down on the sideline is that we don't have our injury report, and now I see Scott Green going onto the field. He left the game late in the second quarter with what appeared to be a possible shoulder injury. He did not come out and play the first 2 plays, but he's now on the field, so apparently he's able to play.
Scott Green, the 2-time MVP for Michigan State. Pass overthrown, intended for Derek Mason, up around the 35-yard line.
Derek Mason incomplete.
2 programs that are trying to turn it around after a number of years of struggles. LSU's Tiger fans have waited 6 years to get the postseason play. Their last bowl game back on January 1 of 89. First winning season in 6 years. Michigan State fans have not had a winning season since 1990. Although they played in the bowl game, ended up with a 6-6 record back in 93, losing to Louisville in the Liberty Bowl. 6 lead changes in this football game. Sounds like a stock car race. Back to pass once again, and he can't hang on. Josh Kerr, the second time in this drive, Kerr unable to hang on. Couldn't get a handle on it. That'll bring up a punting situation.
LSU came with the blitz, forcing Tony Banks to throw the ball to his short receiver. He simply did not have time to hold on to the ball and let his deep receivers work downfield.
Chris Solani back to punt. For Michigan State, averaging 36.9 yards for the season. A high kick down to Kennison. No fair catch at his own 10-yard line, and he is smacked immediately, and that's where they'll call it down. Musid Muhammad, the wide receiver, making the stop. 40-yard punt. Well, we're joined in the booth by a man who's got to be smiling tonight, John Waters, the CEO of Poland Weed Eater. And John, you guys have got to be so excited about the relationship here with this bowl game.
Absolutely great. It's great for the community. It's great for everything. 2 great teams, great games.
This relationship over a couple of years ago, people said this is going to grow and grow and grow, but I don't think anyone perceived that it would get this big this quick.
Bringing an LSU in and bringing the top Michigan State team just overwhelmed everything. It was beyond our expectations.
The atmosphere here tonight, sellout crowd here at Shreveport, incredible, over 50,000 here. And the atmosphere, talking about bringing LSU, bringing Michigan State in. The tie-in that they announced early this year with the SEC is going to guarantee a lot of excitement with the host team.
Yeah, especially with this part of the country. They're just big SEC tie-ins, and it's kind of guaranteed us a good early sellout early in the next year, the next couple of years.
I want to compliment you. The field here looks great. I mean, they've taken those weed eaters and done a wonderful job. They've edged it perfectly, and there's not a we walked early. There's not a weed down there anywhere.
We don't allow them. We took care of that. There's a few signs around to remind you which company is sponsoring this thing.
Okay,
Thank
John.
you.
Hey, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on a great relationship here with the Independence Bowl. And off to the running back, Falk. There to make the tackle. I tell you, John Waters and the folks from Poland have got to be awful excited, Coach, because of their relationship not only with the bowl, but the whole community here involved in Shreveport, supporting the atmosphere, the excitement of these teams. Had a big Mardi Gras here last night from both ball clubs and sellout crowd here.
Jerry, it's so very obvious from the time you hit town that the entire community and the surrounding communities are involved. And we'll talk a little bit about what Jerry DiNardo did with his LSU football team after this play.
Third down, and sailing one upfield, double coverage on Shedrick Wilson, and he was covered inside and outside for the incompletion to bring up a punt.
Jerry, one of the things that was so interesting, when Jerry DiNardo brought his team earlier this week to Shreveport, all of his practices were held at local high schools, a different high school each day, and he opened up every one of his practices to all of the LSU fans. And it was something that I had never heard happen. They had all kind of excitement. Mark King, the big senior offensive guard, put it this way when we were talking to him. He said, everybody was at their practice except the LSU marching band. Those were the only folks that weren't there, but it was a tremendous gesture on the part of Coach DiNardo to the people that support LSU, the university, and LSU, the football program.
They had the stands full at those high schools here in Shreveport. They practiced the last couple of days at Byrd High School. And remember, this is a school that had 27,000 fans show up for their spring game. They follow their football team. Back with more from Shreveport in just a moment. Stay with us.
The river
back in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's the junction to Interstate 49, just 2 miles from the stadium here at Independence Stadium. And you jump on 49 and head south about 4 hours, and you're in Baton Rouge, home of the LSU Tigers. And folks, they have come here early in the week, the LSU fans, as have the Michigan State fans, to enjoy the great atmosphere and the weather in Shreveport. Michigan State on offense. This time to give to the tailback, Mark Renaud, for a gain of a couple. The 20th annual Poland Weed Eater Independence Bowl is brought to you by the all-new Ford Taurus, a look you've never seen from a name you know well. atmosphere here in Shreveport. First half, if you joined us late, all you missed was 45 points and 556 yards of total offense. In the second half, we're sort of seeing some of the same. LSU has already scored once, and Michigan State on offense. Completion to Muhammad. He's got some blockers, but an outstanding effort by Torrey James out of the left cornerback position to fight through the blockers and make the tackle.
Outstanding open field tackle by Torrey James, and he did that because he kept on his feet. He stayed up. He took the receiver on high, did a nice job of getting him on the ground, and then he got some help from Pat Rogers, his outside linebacker. Great pursuit to the football.
Officials talking it over on the field. Banks had a hot start here in the first quarter tonight. 10 of 17 passing for 191 yards and a touchdown. Has slowed down since then. He is 3 of 11 for 37 yards. Talking about Tony Banks, the senior quarterback for Michigan State.
Across the line of scrimmage, therefore no foul.
And they will wave off the flag.
It's going to be important for Michigan State to get Tony Banks back in the football game. He is the key to their offensive success. As we talked with Coach Saban, he felt like they had to play well at the quarterback position tonight in order to win this game.
3 wide receivers in shotgun formation. LSU faking the blitz. And the flags come. Looks like one of the LSU linebackers may have stepped into the neutral zone. We'll see what they call. Probably going to cost the Tigers 5 yards on a 3rd and 7 situation.
Dead ball. False start on the offense. 3rd down.
And instead, they're going to march 5 off against Michigan State on the dead ball foul. So that man has to throw it for 5 more yards. Tony Banks brings up a 3rd and 12. Less than 10 minutes remaining. Nick Saban's team trailing by 4 points after leading at halftime, 24-21. 3 wide receivers, Mason, Muhammad, and Napoleon Outlaw, top of your screen. Shotgun formation by Banks. Looks downfield, getting rushed, and he will be smothered by Greg Hill and a host of Tigers, and they have taken possession of the ball. Gabe Northern picks up the football and will ramble down and score for LSU. Oh my, what a turnaround. Gabe Northern, 2-time All-SEC defensive end, is exhausted.
Once again, we see the effects of the LSU pressure. This time they brought their linebackers as well as their safety, number 25, Greg Hill. We see Hill getting the first part of the sack. We see Gabe Northern coming from the back, stripping the ball loose. The ball was never down. Northern's knees never touched the ground. He alertly scooped it up and ran it in for the score.
Extra point is good on the 37-yard fumble return by Northern, and suddenly LSU is up by 11, 35-24, with 9 minutes, 20 seconds remaining here in the 3rd quarter. We'll be back. Back at Shreveport, there's a look at Gabe Northern, the senior from Baton Rouge. 2-time All-SEC selection, 37-yard scamper after he strips the ball from Tony Banks. Wade Ritchie kicks a low line drive and they hand it off back there to Mason. And Mason comes to the near sideline, and no, he will not get away this time as he is brought down about the 26-yard line. A 12-yard return.
Let's go back and take a look at the big play here and the pressure of the LSU secondary. And as we talked to Nick Saban yesterday, he was concerned about Michigan State's ability to block the LSU blitz long enough for his receivers to work open downfield. Obviously, that time the coverage held up long enough for the pressure to get to him, and then we've got the big turnover and run back by Gabe Northern for the LSU touchdown.
They talked about needing to be able to throw the ball effectively, open up the running game, and I think they did do that in the first half. They have not done it here in the third quarter. And now Banks will scramble other side. Tells Mohammed to go downfield, and he has him open, but the ball almost picked off. An alert play by Clarence Linton coming over his free safety spot to help on the coverage of Muhsin Mohammed. Mohammed had turned and gotten behind the defender, and the ball was just overthrown.
We're going to get a chance to look at Mohammed on the isolation, and as he turned up, he had an opening right there, and the ball was just slightly overthrown, giving Clarence Linton time to come over top from his free safety position.
Tony Banks doing a nice job to reverse his field, had plenty of time to get the ball off to the offensive line, able to hold out the LSU rush. 2nd and 10. Michigan State's offense sputtering here in the third quarter. They give it to the fullback, Green, and he will go nowhere. In fact, will probably lose a yard. Alan Stansberry, leading tackler on the Tiger defense there to make the stop.
What is important here, Jerry, is that the Michigan State offense keeps their poise. They've had a struggle through this part of the third quarter, but there's a lot of time left. It's been a wide-open football game. Keep your composure. Gary Tranquil, the offensive coordinator now, has got to be selective, find some things that can be effective for his Michigan State offense.
3rd and 11. In their own territory, Banks has the receiver. Ball is tipped and intercepted at Stansberry, and he will scamper down to the 15-yard line. And the turnovers keep piling up for the Spartans.
Once again, Jerry, the pressure of the LSU defensive front. Defensive end number 7, James Gilliard, we're going to see him comes in. He tipped the ball in the air, allowing Stansberry to come over and make the interception. Right there, that's number 7. Gilliard with his hand up, he tipped it. Here comes Stansberry breaking on the ball. He does a nice job of running with it, ran through Mark Renard and brought it down to the 14-yard line.
4th turnover tonight for Michigan State. They try the flanker around. The ball gets away, and it looks like it's been recovered. They were trying to pitch the ball to Eddie Kennison coming around. Recovered for a loss by Kendall Cleveland, the redshirt freshman tailback. 4 turnovers. That's the story for Michigan State. 3 fumbles and an interception. And they have struggled offensively here in the third quarter. But for the Michigan State fans who have followed this Spartan team all year long, they understand that in 5 of the 6 games they've won this year, they faced deficits in the second half. So this team certainly understands what it's like to be behind. And they have fought their way back and won 5 times after trailing in the second half. Pass upfield. Cannot connect with Kennison.
Looked like a miscommunication, Jerry, between the quarterback and receiver. The receiver came down, breaking to the inside. Herb Tyler expecting the outside break, threw the ball outside, and then harmlessly hit the ground. This is a critical series for the Michigan State defense. They've got to respond now to the challenge of the turnover and deny LSU points on the scoreboard.
3rd and 23 for the Tigers. Line of scrimmage, the Michigan State 27-yard line. Here is Tyler looking for the end zone. Wide open is Kennison, and they will give him 6. Beautiful pass, and that had to be a busted coverage back there because Eddie Kennison had 5 yards on Demetrius Martin, the left cornerback.
Very obviously, Jerry, a busted coverage. The corner expected to have help from the safety deep behind him. When he saw that there was no help back there, he turned in a panic and tried to catch Eddie Kennison in the corner of the end zone.
Boy, Nick Saban, who prides himself on great defense, pacing the sideline, and that man right there, 27-yard reception, Eddie Kennison. And now LaFleur for the extra point. It is good. And it is 42-24 LSU.
We're going to see the touchdown again. Number 14, Tyler, finds Kennison wide open. Number 21, Demetrius Martin, was the corner, expecting to have some help from his safety, number 6, Sori Canoe. Canoe wasn't there. You don't know which player was at fault, but obviously a big mistake in the Michigan State secondary. One of the things that Nick Saban feared yesterday when we talked to him was LSU's big play ability, and that certainly has come and haunted them here in the third quarter.
We told you Kennison was a 4-time track All-American. Not only did he catch the pass for 27 yards and score, but he took 2 steps and leaped the fence 4.5 feet high with 1 step. Now, that's talent. Young man, 4 receptions, 98 yards, an average of 24.5 yards and a touchdown. The junior from Lake Charles, Louisiana. Voted most outstanding offensive player by the LSU coaches this year, and now you're seeing why. Wade Ritchie kicks it off. And the short man will bring it up over the 30-35-yard line. And, of course, coming up after our coverage, we're going to go out to San Diego to Jack Murphy Stadium, the Plymouth Holiday Bowl. Kansas State taking on Colorado State, and what a good one that should be. Fifth-ranked Kansas State 9-2, Colorado State 8-3. 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, and Adrian Karsten out at Jack Murphy Stadium. Glad to have you with us here. Bill Lewis, along with yours truly, Jerry Punch, bringing you the 20th annual Poland Weeder Independence Bowl. Here in the third quarter, it is 42-24 LSU. After a 24-21 halftime lead by Michigan State, they have been unable to move the football until now. That completion to Renaud, 40, inside the 40-yard line. Mark Renaud, that pass almost picked off. Michigan State in the third quarter having back-to-back turnovers. And that's a look at the Michigan State sidelines. They're over there going to regroup a little bit. They're not at all happy about what's happened in the third quarter. They're going to get their thoughts and minds together and get on that football field. This is a very, very proud and a very intense football program. Banks again to the tailback, Renaud, and he is stopped short of the line of scrimmage by about a half a yard. Markeith Spears, the backup middle linebacker, a true freshman from Zachary, Louisiana. And we've got a possible personal foul being called, a late flag coming in. And Coach, that's a foul based on frustration.
That's exactly what it was. Number 80, Derek Mason, just lost his poise at the end of the play, and it's so important when things start to go a little bit against you that you keep your poise and continue to stay focused on what's important.
And the official walked over to the sideline with Flozell Adams, the massive sophomore right tackle. Adams out of Bellwood, Illinois.
On the offense, disqualified.
Microphone on our official not working, referee Terry Curlington. And apparently they have ejected a player, so that he walked over to the sidelines with Flozell Adams, a sophomore, 6'7", 335. And if he cannot play, he is a major loss. He is their huge force on the right side of the offensive line for the Spartans. Second and 26 on the penalty. Here's Banks back to pass. As the receiver upfield, and Mason makes the reception down about the 37-yard line.
Jerry, I certainly need to apologize to wide receiver Derek Mason, because when the flag was thrown, it was thrown right at him in the secondary, and the official came in pointing to him, and I did not see that he continued on by him up into the area that Flozell Adams had been involved in the skirmish on the line of scrimmage.
Looked like the back judge able to see upfield and saw Adams involved, and there's a look at Adams, who apparently has been ejected from this football game. Michigan State trying to get their offense on track here in the third quarter. They have scored no points in the second half, and from behind again, Mason, or Banks, I should say, is smothered by James Gilliard, the left end. And it'll be LSU football. Incredible the turn of events here for Michigan State. in the third quarter.
Jerry, as we saw the ejection of number 76, Flozell Adams, being ejected from the game. In professional football, when a player is ejected, he does have to leave the site. He has to leave the stadium. In college football, they are permitted to stay on the sideline, as we see Adams doing in this case.
Kendall Cleveland, the running back, carried the football, and he is gang tackled by a host of Spartans led by Jabbar Threets, the right end. And temper is beginning to flare on the field. A lot of frustration, some tempers flaring on both sides of the ball, LSU and Michigan State. A lot of talking back and forth, and they've got an LSU player down. And Kendall Cleveland, who was driven back by a host of Michigan State players, he is the injured Tiger.
Offense, come here.
We see Cleveland up in the pile underneath of a host of green jerseys. The ball came loose, but it came loose obviously after the whistle was blown. And I don't know, Jerry, if that's what caused the frustration on the part of Michigan State, but that clearly was not a fumble. The whistle had blown long before that ball came loose. We saw number 23, Yakini Allen, come off the field tremendously upset, and it's important here that the Michigan State defense stay together and play hard. They've got to get this game turned around. Their offense is struggling.
Unsportsmanlike line conduct on the defense. First down.
When your offense struggles, it's important that that defense comes to life, picks them up. What they need is a 3-down series, get off the field, get the ball back in the hands of the Michigan State offense.
There's a look at Kendall Cleveland, able to get off the field, and now the coach is talking to some of their defensive players that are trying to calm down. That's Yakini Allen.
First and 10 LSU now at the Michigan State 46-yard line.
And there's Cleveland, redshirt freshman tailback, who had about 500 or 600 pounds fall on him when they finally made the tackle back there. Gang tackled back, personal foul penalty, and now the line of scrimmage is Michigan State territory. Here is Falk inside the 40-yard line, down to about the 39, and Chris Smith there to run him out of bounds,
the ball carrier,
but not until he gains about 8.
Chris Smith, number 96, makes a stop.
That play, Jerry, is a great example of what separates a good back from an outstanding back. That basically was a no-gain play, but Falk kept working, breaking tackles, finding the soft spot, ends up with a 7 or 8 yard gain.
Less than 5 minutes remaining here in the third quarter in Shreveport, and once again Falk gets the handoff, and he will go nowhere. Gain of maybe a half a yard, if at that. That'll bring up a 3rd and short. Reggie Garnett, leading tackler for Michigan State, the junior from Akron, Ohio, making his 34th consecutive start in the Spartan defense tonight. He is there to make the start. In fact, Garnett did not make the start tonight, so he won't get credit for 34 consecutive starts.
That's exactly right. That's a pretty good streak that came to an end, and he did an outstanding job on that play of keeping tempo with the zone dive play. As Falk cut it back, he cut it right back with him from the middle linebacker position and met him in the hole.
3rd and 3, back to pass, and the pass is complete to the tight end, LaFleur. 30, 25, 20, and he will be chased out of bounds inside the 15-yard line by Sori Canoe. 26-yard completion. Tyler to LaFleur.
LaFleur has had 12 catches this season from the tight end position, but he's 6'7", he's 279 pounds, and he shows his strength running through the arms of Marvin Wright, number 18. Wright, remember, was the defensive back that had 102 tackles during the season.
1st and 10, 15-yard line. Falk given the handoff, and he is brought down behind the line of scrimmage. An outstanding effort by Reggie Garnett. Garnett breaking through to catch Falk for about a 6-yard loss.
Big series for the Michigan State defense. They've got to find a way here to stop LSU, or this thing could start to slip away from them.
I think 23 was 50.
Reggie Garnett with back-to-back outstanding plays. Had a shoulder injury early in the year, twisted his knee versus Iowa. Was the co-winner along with Ike Reese, the linebacker, of the outstanding underclass defensive lineman. There's a look at Kevin Falk's numbers on the evening. 181 yards, averaging 12.9 a carry. Looking deep in the end zone once again, and the pass is overthrown, intended for Shedrick Wilson. And that fence there is a little bit difficult. Players having to leap that thing. Demetrius Martin also went over the fence. Now some of the fans and attendants trying to help some of the players get back in.
It's very unusual, Jerry, to have a fence that close to the field and then not have some type of padding to protect the players, because both of them got into it in a hurry. We're going to watch how quickly that fence comes up upon both of those players as they go through the end zone. Could be a very dangerous situation to run into that thing at full speed like those two players did.
Here's Tyler on the shovel pass, and it'll be an incomplete pass intended for Kevin Falk. And that'll bring up 4th down. Jerry DiNardo trying to get his field goal team on the field. Andre LaFleur coming out for what will probably be about a 38-yarder. He will kick the ball from actually the 27-yard line.
38-yard field goal.
His longest of the year, 51 against Mississippi State. Low line drive kick, and it is wide left, and
no good.
Michigan State gets a reprieve. So with 2 minutes, 29 seconds remaining here in the third quarter, LSU 42, Michigan State 24. Back with more from Shreveport in just a moment. Back in Shreveport, look at the Golden Girls. They are famous in Baton Rouge and around the Southeast. Part of the Golden Band from Tigerland. Here to support the LSU folks, Tony Banks. Take a look at the first and second half. What a difference. Banks trying to get the Spartan offense on track, but it won't happen there. No chance whatsoever to get that one off. James Gilliard there, the senior from Shreveport, one of 4 players on LSU's team from right here in Shreveport.
Jerry, down after down now in the second half, the LSU defense is simply challenging Michigan State. They're putting 8 people on the line of scrimmage. They're mixing up different combinations of blitzes. This time they brought their 2 inside linebackers, and we saw number 7, James Gilliard, come off the corner and beat David Mudge, who is now playing in the spot that Flozell Adams vacated when he was thrown out of the game.
Loss of 14. That'll bring up a 2nd and 24. The draw play to Renaud. He gets an opening. 5-10. And finally, Gilliard once again will bring down Renaud back up near the 20-yard line.
Tackle by James Gilliard.
Nice job by Mark Renaud, almost smothered in the backfield, able to dodge out of a couple of would-be tacklers and gain about 12 yards. There's Renaud, 15 rushes, 70 yards, averaging 4.7, averaged 4.9 yards per carry on the season. 3rd and 12. Line of scrimmage, their own 19-yard line. Banks tries to scramble out. And once again, guess who? James Gilliard. Gilliard was voted most improved player on the LSU defense in 1995, and now you know why.
They're relentless with their pass rushing. You're now starting to see the speed differential show up, Jerry, between the 2 football teams. The LSU defensive front is simply too quick for the big, strong Michigan State offensive line of scrimmage.
Solani back to punt. LSU with 5 sacks this evening and a low wobbler up to about the 47-48-yard line, and that's where they'll blow it dead at the LSU 49 when the Tigers will take possession. 5 seconds remaining here in the third quarter, and the third quarter has belonged solely to LSU. At halftime, Michigan State led 24-21. They have not scored in the third quarter. And LSU has taken a 42 to 24-point lead. If you look at Michigan State's season, the third quarter has been their weakest quarter all year long. They have scored just 49 points in the third quarter, and that's pretty evident here in what we've just seen. Great tackle on Herb Tyler by Jabbar Threets, and Threets is not at all relinquishing this one. And that's the end of the third quarter. Our score, LSU 42, Michigan State 24. We've got 15 minutes to play. This one don't want to go away. This could be a shootout. Shreveport, Louisiana. That pretty well sums it up for Michigan State in the third quarter. No points after being so impressive early on, pitching in the second quarter. And LSU scored 3 times, twice off turnovers. So 2 turnovers by Michigan State in the third quarter. 4 sacks allowed by Michigan State. And that's the differential now at 21 points for LSU. Kennison, and he will make the catch and run out of bounds inside the 25-yard line.
Tyler's pass complete to number 2, Eddie Kennison.
What a beautiful job by quarterback Herb Tyler, sprinting out, throwing the ball on the dead run, and throwing a strike to Eddie Kennison on the deep corner route. Fortunately for Michigan State, Kennison ran out of field, because if not, if he turned up, that's another touchdown for the Tigers.
27 yards on the completion from Tyler to Kennison. And LSU starts out the fourth quarter the way they finished the third, moving the ball effectively on offense. Motion by Kevin Falk, topping the screen, and Tyler will give the inside handoff to Robert Toomer, a senior running back. Toomer led LSU in rushing 5 games last year. And what a job the freshman has done this year at LSU, Herb Tyler.
It's so easy to get caught up in what happens at the tailback position with Kevin Falk and Kendall Cleveland, 2 other freshmen. But Herb Tyler came in, led LSU to 3 victories over North Texas State, Ole Miss, and Arkansas in a stretch run where they needed to win to go to a bowl game. He's an outstanding athlete as a freshman from Walker High School in New Orleans.
Tyler handing it off once again, another outstanding freshman, Kevin Falk and Demetrius Underwood, along with Marvin Wright on the stop. Talking about Herb Tyler, I mean, those 3 games he started, it's hard to believe that a freshman can be so composed and so poised. But with Tyler running the offense, they averaged 435 yards, 38 points, and 25 first downs in those 3 games we just mentioned.
He's an outstanding athlete. You have to credit also Morris Watts, the offensive coordinator, because what they did is they kind of trimmed their offense down, gave Herb things that he could do and do well, and then they've allowed him to grow into this football team. One other thing that Morris told us yesterday is that the extra bowl practice, the extra preparation time has really helped this young man mature in terms of his mental approach to the game.
Tyler has a receiver in the end zone, and he throws it a little too far. Shedrick Wilson was open, but Tyler was being rushed. And Reggie Garnett, they're rushing Tyler, made him hurry the pass. Otherwise, it could have been another 6 for the Tigers. That'll bring up a field goal situation for LSU, and they will line of scrimmage their own 20. The spot of the kick to 27 will make it a 37-yard attempt by Andre LaFleur. Former walk-on. Was awarded a scholarship at LSU this year. What an outstanding job he has done. The kick is up, and he misses it near side again. So near side. So with 13 minutes and 16 seconds remaining here in this football game, LSU missed another shot at adding 3 to the scoreboard. It's 42-24, Tigers over the Spartans. Back at Independence Stadium, a sold-out Independence Stadium in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's our score, 42-24, and the time remaining here in this one. Michigan State trying to get on track. Their most productive periods this year on offense have been the first and fourth quarters. Both those quarters, they have scored 70 or more points. They need to come back and get something on the board here to try to get back in this one.
That's pass intended for number 26, Mark Bernard, incomplete.
The 20th annual Poland Weed Eater Independence Bowl is presented by Poland, makers of the new Woodsman Chainsaw. Dollar for dollar, feature for feature, it's hard to beat a Poland. And in part by Ford Motor Company, where quality is job one. Capacity crowd on hand, excited fans from both Michigan State and LSU enjoying this one here, the 20th annual edition of the Poland Weed Eater Independence Bowl, and Michigan State trailing here in the fourth quarter and unable to get any protection at all. Tony Banks.
Tackle in the backfield.
Tonight's attendance, a brand new record for the Independence Bowl, 48,835 in attendance here, and that's the look at the crowd that started arriving here early in the week, Coach, and they were enjoying the clear skies and the great weather. Couldn't ask for better weather, couldn't ask for a better matchup in this one.
Certainly can. Right now, the LSU defense is really taking charge. Once again, we saw on that last play, number 88, Gabe Northern coming off the corner with yet another LSU sack.
Third and 18. Banks pumps once, looks deep, throws over the middle, and almost has Muhsin Muhammad, who can't quite hang on. And Muhammad gets up. You can see the perspiration in his jersey there. It is a warm night. It had been a warm night. It's cooling off a little bit now here in Shreveport. These guys are not going to quit. They haven't quit all year long. They were behind twice against Michigan and came back and won that one. Third quarter stats, Coach, sort of tell it all.
It certainly does. The effect of the LSU defense and their total domination of their defensive front shows up in that graph, and that's what's happened to this football game. The LSU defense has completely turned it around, taking control.
The turnovers devastating to Michigan State. Solani's kick, a high spiral. Kennison back at the 48, backpedals to his own 40, now comes over the 50-yard line and will dance out of bounds. 40-yard punt and a 3-yard return. That's where LSU will take over at midfield. Fourth time a Big Ten representative has played the Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana. 12 minutes and 4 seconds. That's all that remains of this 20th edition of the Poland Weed Eater Independence Bowl. And LSU players able to smile somewhat, but got to remember, Michigan State has come back so many times this year, but they are going to have to get something on track in a hurry. And Kennison trying to hang on upfield, and they will say, no, he was out of bounds, and that will not be ruled a catch.
Simply ran out of field, Jerry. He came back and ran the same corner route that they ran successfully coming to the right side of the field. Tyler did a good job of delivering the ball, but they simply ran out of field.
Eddie Kennison, 5 receptions, 124 yards and a touchdown. Kickoff returns, 2 for 116 yards and a touchdown. Rushing, 1 for 6. He's done everything but make the Gatorade. And it's not over yet. I think they're going to let him mix some before the quarter's out. So, hand off to Falk. Gets a hit on him in the backfield. He is loose in the secondary. And boy, what a touchdown-saving tackle that was. If he gets by Ray Hill, you can start letting the band warm up the play.
Michigan State gambled. They came with the blitz. We see the pressure coming. LSU doing a great job with their misdirection counterplay of blocking the blitz at the point of attack, getting Falk into the secondary. And when you're playing man-to-man coverage, there's not a lot of folks back there. A tremendous block on that play by their H-back, number 11, Savoie.
There are the numbers of Thunder and Lightning, Falk and Cleveland. 223 yards combined. And what a great open field tackle that was by Ray Hill.
But to take it back down, the quality of Falk in the open field is not an easy assignment.
Dead ball. personal foul on the offense. First down.
Got a personal foul called, and on the offense, Eddie Kennison, we are being told that may have showed a little too much emotion downfield. That will cost them some yards.
Jerry, both of these football teams were penalized often during the season, and I think as both head coaches have an opportunity to work on into spring practice, that's something that they will want to address with the teams, because we've seen tonight how destructive that can be to a football team when you're hit with those penalties.
And off to Falk around the left side again, and Falk again will get about 6 or 7 before being forced out of bounds. But what about the futures of these two programs? I mean, LSU with the talented freshman tandem at running back and tailback, and we talked about the youth of the LSU program. Look at Michigan State. Nick Saban talked about the fact that they started 5 freshmen a couple of games this year. In fact, 1 in Illinois with 5 freshmen starting on defense.
Both of these coaches, as you talk about the future, it brings a smile to their face. They know that when they came, they inherited some good players. Both of them had sound, solid recruiting classes a year ago, and then they will really use this bowl experience to build on and have a strong recruiting year this year.
Couple of yards by Falk. Well, ESPN is your home for college football at noon tomorrow as Stanford takes on East Carolina in the Liberty Bowl. And at 8 p.m., it's number 18 Virginia taking on Georgia in the Peach Bowl as Ray Goff coaches his last game as a Georgia Bulldog. Hey, what a class individual Ray Goff is.
He certainly is, and he handled an extremely difficult situation with nothing but class here in the last 5 or 6 weeks.
He's the kind of guy that you like to have your kids exposed to, so we're hoping that when you're around him in the locker room or during the pregame that Ray will get a chance to coach some more down the road. A couple of yards on the option by Tyler. Reggie Garnett there to make the stop.
Jerry, good things will happen to Ray Goff, because there's a lot of administrators out there that observed that whole situation at Georgia, and they know the manner in which Ray handled it. And I think he's the kind of guy that an awful lot of folks will want to have in their program.
I totally agree. Give to Falk once again. He will get 3 or 4 more. And coming up next, we're going to go out to San Diego to Jack Murphy Stadium coming up around 9 o'clock Eastern time, and that is the Plymouth Holiday Bowl. Colorado State taking on Kansas State, and that should be a heck of a matchup out at Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego. Brad Nestler, Gary Danielson, and Adrian Karsten will be on hand. And there's a look at a young man who will probably play on Sundays next year, Tony Banks. The NFL scouts are very, very high on this young man's ability, his poise, composure, talent. He's got great heart. Chris Smith there to make the stop for no gain on Kevin Falk. And this Spartan defense has not given up at all.
They certainly haven't. And what they need to do is get the ball back, because we saw Tony Banks a minute ago. He can throw the ball out the end of this stadium, and Michigan State has the kind of speed at wide receiver, Jerry, where they can strike quick and get back into this game and put the pressure back on the LSU football team.
Well, they brought in the Wade Ritchie, the sophomore place kicker from Corinco, Louisiana, and he is going to attempt one from 49 yards. Has a strong leg. It's long enough, and it is good. So the young man who was the USA Today and Consensus High School All-American kicker a couple of years ago hits a 49-yarder and expands the lead. 8 minutes, 45 seconds remaining here in Shreveport, and the Tigers move out 45-24 over Michigan State. We'll be back. Taking a look at downtown Shreveport, Louisiana. The Christmas lights still up in the City of Roses. What a great week it's been for us here and for the bowl teams participating in this Weed-Eater Independence Bowl. .45 points, ties the bowl record. LSU's current scoring, the last 3 coming on a 48-yard field goal by Wade Ritchie, the sophomore from Corinco, Louisiana. There's a young man you're going to hear a lot about over the next few years. Kevin Falk, true freshman.
7-yard return, first and 10, Michigan State at the 45-yard line.
First and 10 from the Spartans. Line of scrimmage, their own 25. Mason scrambling, and he will tuck it and run 30, 35, and he steps out of bounds just at the 35-yard line, so they will mark it just past the first down marker. Anthony McFarland, the true freshman right tackle, there to run him out.
Once again, the pressure of the LSU defensive front. That time they did it with a 4-man rush. Immediately flushed Banks out of the pocket. Tony did a nice job, though, of keeping his head up, seeing that he had an opportunity to run for the first down.
And they have helped Muhsin Muhammad off the field. He came over limping, and the trainers went out and met him about the 50-yard line and helped him to the sideline. Apparently he had a cramp. Now he seems to be walking around okay and sitting on the bench, but they certainly do not need to lose him. Muhsin Muhammad, fifth-year senior, given the President's Award for Perseverance this year. And with timeout on the field, we'll take it with them here. 8 minutes and 24 seconds remaining here in Shreveport. We'll be back. The temperatures are dropping here in Shreveport, and you can tell they fired up the heaters on the sideline. But if you're an LSU fan, you're staying pretty warm right now, knowing you've got a 21-point lead here with less than 8.5 minutes remaining in this bowl game. There are some of the folks that on the Michigan State sideline have nothing whatsoever to hang their hats about. What a year they have had, and it's not over yet. We've seen stranger than we had 3 touchdowns scored in less than 2 minutes here in the second quarter, so 21-point deficit in this kind of football game with these kind of skilled athletes, anything is possible.
Jerry, that's exactly what you have to keep in mind, and what offensive coordinator Gary Tranquil is searching. I know I've been there. You're looking for something to light a spark under your football team. Some play that you can have success with to get your offense back in rhythm and get them into the end zone in a hurry.
First and 10, Michigan State at the 35-yard line.
On the scrimmage at 35. That's where Tony Banks and company will go to work. Banks back to pass. Looking upfield. And has Napoleon Outlaw, the backup wide receiver out of West Palm.
Number 8, Napoleon Outlaw.
About a 9-yard gain, and more importantly, Outlaw gets out of bounds to save the clock.
Tony Banks is certainly capable of engineering the kind of drive that they need. He did it against Michigan in the fourth quarter. He took his football team 93 yards to score the winning touchdown in that big upset over the Wolverines.
Shotgun formation by Banks. Second and short. Looking downfield, has a receiver downfield and will throw it to the near side. And that's Derek Mason. Muhsin Muhammad had broken open down over the 30-yard line and was wide open, but Banks had already decided to tuck it in and toss it near side to Derek Mason.
Tony's done a nice job the last 2 passes of stepping up into the middle of the pocket. The pressure's coming off the edge. He's stepping up away from that pressure, buying himself a couple extra seconds to find the open receiver.
Receivers top of your screen, Muhammad and Outlaw. Mason, bottom of your screen. They will hand it off to the tailback, Renaud, and he will get about 4 yards before Alan Stansberry makes a stop. Coming up later on ESPN2, the semifinals of the Rainbow Classic tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Game 1, it is UMass taking on Southern California. And then following that one, Game 2, 12:30 a.m. Syracuse and Rhode Island. That's the finals of the Rainbow Classic out in Hawaii. Muhammad on the reception. Great move, leaps over the defender, and that move will give him enough for the first down. Talk about Muhsin Muhammad. We mentioned before he was recipient of the President's Award for Perseverance. Overcame so much in his 5 years at Michigan State. He had a major knee operation as a true freshman. He was injured on the practice field. Got involved with the law, had some problems there. And the coaching staff, Muhammad said, I can't say enough about George Perlis and the staff that was there for so many years, how they stood behind me and how they helped me develop into a total person. scrambling, looks upfield, and he will scamper out of bounds at the 35-yard line. Let's check in Tempe, Arizona with Mike Tirico. Michael?
Tony Banks.
Jerry, thanks. As this game winds up in Shreveport, a reminder that coming up just after the end of this game, top of the hour, Greg Myers, the All-American DB for Colorado State, leads the Rams, their second Holiday Bowl appearance against K-State tonight. That's coming up right after our Independence Bowl game, so don't go away as we go back to Shreveport and Jerry.
Thank you, Michael. Myers, boy, what a talent he is. 4th in the nation in punt returns, averaging almost 16 yards a return. And for Kansas State, Chris Canny, 2nd in the nation with 8 interceptions on the year. That should be something to watch coming up from San Diego. Oh, he can't quite hang on. Mark Renaud had plenty of running room, had about 2 or 3 offensive linemen in front of him. Looks like he may have turned to run before he tucked the ball away.
That's exactly what happened to him. He took his eyes off the ball, and you can't catch it if you don't see it all the way in. A good call. They had the screen against the LSU blitz, exactly the matchup you want. Renaud just took his eyes off the ball a little bit soon, causing the drop.
3rd down and 12.
3rd and 12 for Michigan State at the LSU 36-yard line. Once again, shotgun by Tony Banks. 3 wide receivers. And looking to the outside for Derek Mason once again. And the completion will down to the 22-yard line. Outstanding effort by Mason.
We see Banks really gun this thing out there. Tremendous job of going down, and we'll let you make the call. It looked like it might have skipped in.
I tell you what, you didn't hear a lot about Derek Mason maybe this year. An incredible talent as a wide receiver. You heard more about his kick and punt returning prowess, but when you got a conference that has a Monty Toomer, Mercury Hayes, Bobby Ingram, and Terry Glenn, it's hard to hear much about Derek Mason as a wide receiver. Banks scrambles to his right, heaves it toward the end zone, and it'll be a jump ball. And Clarence Linton will pick it off for LSU at the 1-yard line.
Jerry, we saw earlier in the 3rd quarter where Linton came over and made that same kind of play. He was denied the interception because it was knocked out of his hands. He does an outstanding job from the free safety position when the quarterback scrambles of staying with the quarterback and breaking on the ball when it's in the air. Watch Linton back in the middle of the field, continue to break over. He does a nice job of going up, catching the ball at its highest point, came down with both feet in bounds before he went out of bounds.
I know Tony Banks has a lot of respect for his receiver, Derek Mason, but he had no shot at that one. 2nd interception of the night, and LSU will take over deep in their own territory. Clock winding down here. We're inside of 7 minutes, and that's the story there for Michigan State. Hard to win it when you turn the ball over 6 times.
It's almost impossible to win a football game, Jerry, when you have that kind of differential in turnovers.
There's a look at Derek Mason. What a talented young man. And the good thing about Mason for the Spartan fans, he's a junior. He'll be back next year. As this program continues to build, you know, both these coaches talked about the fact that they were happy to be in this bowl game, but this was just the beginning. The future was yet to come.
That's exactly right, Jerry. They both have an opportunity to go to the top of their conference and possibly win a national championship.
Back in Shreveport, Louisiana for the 2nd of what is an ESPN Bowl tripleheader tonight. Heritage Bowl earlier today, won by Southern in the Georgia Dome. This one a little over 6 minutes away from conclusion. Coming up next, the Holiday Bowl from San Diego. Here is Tyler back to pass, and Robert Toomer unable to hold on, and once again we're going to get a penalty flag.
Pass intended for number 36, Robert Toomer, incomplete. There is a flag on the play.
Flag being thrown by the side judge. On the incompletion, it was scheduled to be 4th down at 9.
no flag.
And they're going to wave it off. Terry Turlington and the Big 8 officiating crew deciding that there was indeed no penalty, so LSU will punt it away, and there's Nick Saban saying we got 6 minutes and 7 seconds to try to get back in this one and make it respectable. What a first half Michigan State had. They said they had to pass the ball effectively to set up the run. They did it in the first half. They did not do it here in the second half, or at least thus far. Chad Kessler, leading punter in the SEC, launched the 64-yarder against Auburn early, and he will not kick the ball. He will just stand there, and if someone doesn't get to him, the clock's going to run out. And finally, they run him out of bounds. They will take the safety, and then they will be able to kick the ball away from their own 20-yard line.
For the safety.
The coach?
That's an unusual situation, an unusual decision at this point in the game. There was no evidence in any of the earlier punting situations that Michigan State was getting close to your punter. So that was a surprising decision on the part of Jerry DiNardo.
Let's check it out in Tempe with Mike Tirico. Michael?
Well, Jerry, we're now over 70 points in that game. We don't expect as many points coming up in our next game because of people like Tim Colston, the consensus All-American defensive tackle for number 10 Kansas State, getting set to take on Colorado State. Kickoff's coming up. We'll get you there as soon as we are done in Shreveport. Right now, let's go back to the Independence Bowl and Jerry.
71 points have been scored here. The record at this bowl game is 74 points. Wake Forest and Oregon back in 1992, so we're just 3 points away from tying the Independence Bowl record. And once again, you would think that had there been some challenge on the punter, you would have thought about it, but they haven't really had any close calls at all.
That situation of taking a safety, you do in two situations. One, when you're really struggling with protection. The other is very late in the football game when there's just a matter of seconds to go where you don't want to block punt, recovering your end zone for what could be the winning score.
Wade Ritchie just booms one down inside the 5-yard line, and Derek Mason will pick it up. Remember, he's already had a 100-yarder tonight, and he will reverse the field back to the 10-yard line, now back up to the 11, and boy, what a talent, still on his feet. Mason scrapping and digging for every yard he can get, and we have some more shoving down there, and once again, a penalty flag.
Tackle made by number 26, Casey Howard.
We'll go back and look at the intentional safety again. What LSU is obviously doing is trying to take a few seconds off of the clock. You instruct your punter in this situation, do not take a hit, don't get tackled where you risk a fumble. Back the ball out the back of the end zone, giving the safety to Michigan State, and then the free kick from the 20-yard line. The question is, why do it when you have the lead that you had?
Personal foul on the kicking team. First down.
Normally, that's a situation, as I mentioned earlier, that you do at the end of a football game when you don't want to risk a blocked punt, recovery in the end zone for a touchdown that could beat you.
And Jerry DiNardo having a conversation with one of his young men there on the sidelines after the personal foul call, which has given Michigan State a little better field position than what they would have had inside their own 20. Here is Banks rolling to his right, has the receiver, Muhammad, and they're trying to keep Muhammad in bounds, keep the clock running, and they managed to do so. He was struggling to get out of bounds, and Talvey Crawford would have none of that.
Crawford showing his strength over there to be able to take Muhammad, who's a 210-pound receiver, but Crawford himself at 5'11", 216 pounds, showed the upper body strength to pull Muhammad back onto the field, keep the clock running.
Down to 5 minutes, or right at the 5-minute mark here in this football game. A 19-point deficit by Michigan State. And once again, Banks will scramble and toss it upfield to Napoleon Outlaw, and he'll make the reception over midfield down about the 46-yard line.
Down to the LSU 46-yard line.
Both of these football teams have bright futures ahead of them. As we mentioned earlier, LSU played 66 players regularly, Jerry, during the season. 18 of those 66 were freshmen. What a great start that'll be as they go back into spring practice to prepare for the '96 season.
No doubt about that. A youth movement at Baton Rouge. And, oh, picked off. And that one will be picked off by Torrey James. He is one of the seniors back there, and we're getting yellow flag fever now. As we'll take a look once again at Torrey James' pick here.
Tony Banks simply went to the out route one time too often. He looked at it all the way, giving Torrey James an opportunity to break on the ball, come in front of the receiver. And we see Derek Mason wrestling to the ground after the interception.
Dead ball. Unsportsmanlike on Michigan. Dead ball. Unsportsmanlike on LSU. First down, LSU.
So unsportsmanlike conduct penalties on both sides. Coming up next, San Diego, California, the site, Jack Murphy Stadium, Colorado State, Kansas State. That should be a good one. Brad Messler, Gary Danielson, Adrian Carson standing by.
The south end zone exit, David Sawaya.
And they're working on a young man who has been a major part of the success story at Michigan State this year, Derek Mason.
Michigan State man in the south end zone.
Training staff there looking at that young man. And to give to Falk, has an opening up over midfield. And he will gain about 12 yards on the carry. Great block up front by Tom Turner, the senior from Bastrop, Louisiana.
Kevin Falk is something very special. They take and run the wide zone dive play. Get the ball deep in the backfield and look at his explosion up into the open crease in the Michigan State defense. The whole design of that play is to get the defense spread, create a soft spot, and then have a back like Falk that can just go and attack it.
Less than 4.5 minutes remaining here. And once again, Falk has the carry, tries to stay in bounds, and will be able to do so just inside the 45-yard line. 22 carries, over 225 yards, and 2 touchdowns for a young man, Kevin Falk. And remember Marshall Falk, when he was a true freshman at San Diego State, he really burst on the national scene with a game where he gained 254 yards rushing as a true freshman. This young man didn't have that kind of game this year until tonight.
And what's so important is that he shows up big in the biggest game of the season. This is his first bowl game. This is LSU's first game. There's not an LSU player that's ever played in a bowl game. And to have your freshman come up with that kind of performance, Jerry, that could be the best performance by a freshman running back during this entire bowl season.
No doubt about it. And what a future that holds for LSU. Look at their offense. They only have 2 seniors on the whole offense. Shedrick Wilson, the wide receiver, is a senior, and Mark King, the left guard. Otherwise, they're all underclassmen. In fact, they start 2 freshmen on the offensive line. Faneca and McClure. Both their tailbacks are freshmen. Their quarterback is a true freshman. Well, if you're Jerry DiNardo, you just you're going to wear out your face smiling.
You can't wait for 2 things. You want to get on the road and recruit, take advantage of this bowl game and this impressive, what appears to be an LSU victory, and then you can't wait to get into spring practice.
Completion to Robert Toomer, and he is forced out of bounds just inside the 35, down about the 32-yard line, Demetrius Underwood. And on the other side of the field, Coach, Michigan State, this is just the beginning for what Nick Saban hopes to be able to do up there for the Spartans. Their future is extremely bright.
Exactly right. Both of these coaches took advantage of the extra practice ball preparation to work a lot of their young players as they prepared for this game.
Less than 2.5 minutes remaining here in this one. It was a sellout crowd the first time in the 20-year history of the Poland Wheeler Independence Bowl. They sold it out, and what a show they put on tonight. And that young man was a major part of it, Kevin Falk. He now goes over 230 yards rushing. LSU up by 19, 45-26 as we approach the 2-minute mark.
Jerry, we've got yet another flag on the field.
Let's check in out in Tempe, Arizona with Mike Tirico.
Okay, Jerry, considering that the margin here is 19 points, the game's essentially decided. If anything happens, we'll keep you updated, but we don't want you to miss any of the game. The Plymouth Holiday Bowl, Kansas State, Colorado State to San Diego. And here's Brad Nessler. Brad?
All right, Mike, thank you. We get set for the Plymouth Holiday Bowl in Jack Murphy Stadium for the 18th year, the home to the Holiday Bowl. And tonight, Colorado State's Rams take on the number 10 team in the country, the Wildcats of Kansas State. Colorado State won the toss and deferred, so they'll be kicking off. Matt McDougall will tee it up, and Kansas State will have the football first. Jimmy Dean and Mike Lawrence will go back deep for Kansas State. 9-2 on the year, 5-2, and tied with Kansas and Colorado for second in the Big Eight. They have had another sensational season, another 9-win season. Colorado State looking for their 9th win, and they were in a 4-way tie for the top spot in the WAC at 6-2. Two teams that rely heavily on defense. All set for the Plymouth Holiday Bowl, and we're underway in San Diego. Eric Hickson from the 5. Hickson with an opening. And all the way out near the 40-yard line. Ball loose, but a 33-yard return will have Kansas State offensively at its own 39-yard line as Matt Miller gets a final look with Coach Snyder on the sideline. And he'll bring out the Kansas State offense. Eric Hickson, the second best rushing total ever for a sophomore at Kansas State. Kelly, the fullback, and Miller, the quarterback. Lockett's their big play man. 13 touchdowns receiving with running, and Loika's the tight end. Up front, Chris Altmans is an all Big 8 performer at left tackle with Greenwood, Johnson, Jaycox, and Hune. Kansas State first down at the 39-yard line. And on the ground for the first play, and with a huge hole off the right side is Hickson. He's all the way down to the 42-yard line, a 20-yard pickup on first down. The defense of Colorado State tops in the WAC. Didn't look like it on that play. Brady Smith led the country in sacks with 15. Hawkins, Trammell, and Moran round out the front group. Carl Ballard, the top tackler, is the inside man with Kwame and Taylor. In the secondary, not only do they have Greg Myers, the Thorpe winner, they've got Ray Jackson, who led them with 5 interceptions. Standifer and Kraft round out the Colorado State secondary. So one play, one big gain, and one first down for Kansas State. Here's Hickson again up the middle, and this time the door closes a bit quicker. He got about 2, maybe 3, as we're just underway in San Diego.
Looking at Matt Miller, the emotional leader of this football team. I don't think anybody's going to fall in love with his mechanics.